There's boom.
There's boom.
I was looking for like a status.
Yep, we're live. It's happening. We should sing the theme song.
Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, 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 bum. Are you ready?
Bum, 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 bum. I'm doing it.
Are we ready for the face cam reveal? Look, it's making me watch an ad.
For your own stream.
For my own stream. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. That's dumb.
Yeah.
Alright, let's do it.
Bum, 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 bum.
Axon. Hey, Justin. That's Justin.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Justin.
What's
I posted
up, dude?
a link about it on Facebook. So
Nice.
I'm a draw.
Alright, here we go. Are we ready? Are we ready?
Yeah.
Boom!
Boom! We're in space.
We're in space.
No,
What's happening? Hey, Super Hamster. What's up, John? What's up, Justin? Hello, everybody.
Oh, you are right. Do not look at the screen. There's a time delay there.
Yeah, it's very confusing. Yeah.
As not a non-linear time ghost.
But here's the thing, like we are traveling backwards through hyperspace.
Right.
Not in a spaceship.
Not a spaceship.
So I think that we are space ghosts.
That's true. That's why everyone is frozen.
Yeah. What's up, Amanda? Welcome. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Amanda.
Welcome to Doug Space 9! Woo! The first episode of Doug Space 9.
Or Deep Space Doug. You can call it whatever you
Deep
want.
Space Doug. Yeah, there was some debate.
A lot of tension in the first pitch meeting.
Yeah. But yeah, here we are. We're going.
Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
The second best Star Trek show.
Yeah, totally. I think so. Although I have to say, like, Next Generation's always been my favorite, but sometimes when I watch Deep Space Nine, I wonder to myself, like, this might be a better show.
For me, Deep Space Nine ties for second with Enterprise and Voyager.
Oh, cool.
No, not Enterprise, with TNG. So first Discovery. Second.
What?
Second.
Wait, show's canceled.
Second is Deep Space Nine.
I'm leaving. Bye.
I knew I could get a controversial opinion out of the gate.
You can just do this by yourself.
So, Deep Space Nine.
You've upset Justin and me.
Deep Space Nine, TNG, and Voyager tie for second.
Okay.
Because they're all basically the same show.
Deep Space Nine, TNG, and Voyager.
Yeah,
okay.
they're all basically the same show. That's
Are
like
all the
that,
same show.
It's like the core 90s Star Trek.
I'm getting, more ruffled by the second.
Third place is Enterprise, and then fourth place is TOS.
Okay. For me, that was complete insanity, but I respect your opinion.
It's well thought out. You don't have to agree with it, but it is reasoned.
That's true. And honestly, like, if we agreed on everything, it would be boring.
It'd be boring, sure.
For me, TNG is number one.
Sure.
DS9 is number two. Although
Nostalgia picks, I get it.
I think that TNG is more nostalgia.
Yeah, for sure.
Because sometimes when, I don't know, there's episodes of TNG that are just, like, absolutely brilliant. But, you know, I don't know. Anyway, it's still my favorite.
I like how we said, look at the camera, and then I just said something shocking, and you were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, then DS9, and then I'd put Enterprise next. Because I love Enterprise. I think it's fantastic.
Late season Enterprise is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Late series, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And then I would do original series, and then Voyager, and then Discovery at the bottom.
Animated series, then Discovery.
You know what? I would put Discovery above the animated series.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
So
that's on my rewatch list that I haven't hit since I was a kid.
You just made me realize that Discovery is not the worst Star Trek show. Which
mission accomplished.
There we go. But we're not here to talk about that.
Deep Space Nine.
What's up, Glitchy Brothers? Welcome, everybody. So we're going to talk about Deep Space Nine. We watched the first episode, Emissary, and we're going to talk about it. I hadn't watched this in, like, close to a decade. I did a full watch of Deep Space Nine when I moved to Seattle about 8 years ago.
Yep.
And I had seen almost the entire show in college, and then I'd seen a little bit of it when it first aired. But when it first aired, I was too dumb. Like, I didn't understand it, and I was too young, and it just didn't quite work for me.
Yep.
But then I watched it in college, and I was like, what was I thinking? This is incredible. I got all the way through the whole show except for the last, like, 6 episodes.
Yep.
And I just, like, couldn't finish. I'm like, I want this to last forever, so I'm not watching this. I just got nervous and, like, didn't watch it.
Like, it's like The Wire. You don't want it to stop.
Yeah, like, what if it's a disappointing ending, too? Because, like, in a serialized show like Deep Space Nine, the ending is so important.
Right. What if they just do, like, a weird montage of flashbacks, too?
Yeah, what if? So I didn't watch it, but then I came back and watched the whole show again, and then I just adored it, start to finish. It was all a dream. I read this article about how Ron Moore originally wanted to end it being all a dream. But we'll talk about that. Yeah, I mean, basically the idea is that Doug and I want to start doing this show one episode at a time. Maybe two, if we feel like two. Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to really talk about spoilers. We're going to talk about just the episode we just watched, even though we both watched the show.
Right. But, I mean, we will talk about the future, potentially.
Yeah.
It's non-linear, so expect spoilers.
Basically, the whole show's already happened.
You live here.
Yeah. And if people show up and have fun, we're going to keep doing it. I would love for us to do the whole show, but if it's just the two of us talking to each other, we can do that anytime.
Yeah. But definitely keep it going long enough so we can talk about Discovery.
Yeah, and I mean, if you guys are here and having fun, we're going to keep going.
Super Hamster thinks that Discovery is worse than fan-made productions.
On the bottom below all the fan... See, that's a man with some taste. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, you know, we're just gonna do this as long as it's fun and hopefully for a long time, but but maybe not. So thank you for being here. Hit that like button if you like what you see, and then maybe we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into Emissary.
Yep.
The first look at Deep Space Nine, the first episode in what will be 7 seasons of amazing TV.
Second Star Trek show.
What did you think of it?
I liked it. I mean, it's good. It starts off well. It's. I think it really sets up a good Star Trek series. I mean, it's the end of it. You're just like, oh, there we go. There's the plot is all laid out for the next season. And the characters walking around. You know, I have nitpicks. You know, as always with Star Trek, but as a Star Trek episode, it's solid.
Yeah.
I will say that the time ghost wormhole aliens are no more weird than mushroom space. So if you hate Discovery, then
mushroom space I think is weirder than wormhole aliens,
sure,
but that's fair.
You can think that.
Yeah. But you know, the thing about the mycelial network is if they had done a show post Deep Space Nine in the timeline,
right,
I would have been able to accept it.
Right.
More, but
to say that this thing existed
10 years before Captain Kirk time, we discovered this mycelial network and just stopped using it.
Right. It's almost like there being a stable wormhole for at least 10,000 years that no one on either side of its endpoints ever ran into. But,
yeah, that's. I ran across that this time. A little that stuck a little bit. I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But that's
it should be like the Bermuda Triangle of Bajoran space, or whatever's on the other side of it too.
Yeah. Although it kind of is, because it's like the Celestial Temple. It's something that they talk about in their religious history. They're like, yeah, this is a real thing, but no one knows exactly where it is.
Right, and it's not like any of them have ships that could just go there as
it's not like they're a spacefaring people at all, you know.
We've got assholes digging up the deserts for thousands of years.
I love the premiere of Deep Space Nine. I really, really love it. I was shocked to watch it again how much I loved it.
Yeah.
It sets up all these themes that really make this show special to me. I mean, this is more of a spiritual Star Trek.
Yes, and that's evident right out of the way.
Absolutely, and it's spiritual in a way that I can really get behind as a not religious person who, like, I consider myself a spiritual person, and that I feel like there is like energy and spirit and all that beyond ourselves that we don't necessarily understand, but I don't believe in any religions.
Right.
I love the idea of like looking at a culture's religion through the lens of like science fiction, where
I got distracted. Justin was like, well, they were dealing with an occupation.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to look
not
for
the Celestial
Temple. What, the occupation was, what, 50 years?
Yeah, 50 years tops,
I think. Yeah. It was written about in ancient texts, and Ondo found in his way. Yeah, totally. And yeah, the orbs of the prophets are like falling through the Celestial Temple and to Bajor. But okay, let's read the synopsis of Emissary, of the first episode. Not to be confused with The Emissary, an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation.
You're right.
All right, so this is from Memory Alpha.
Great website.
Awesome website, for sure.
If you ever get into an argument with people about Star Trek, this is your friend.
This is the arbiter of all Star Trek discussions. 3 years after his wife died at the hands of the Borg, and following their Cardassian withdrawal from the planet Bajor, Commander Benjamin Sisko and a new crew of Starfleet and Bajoran officers take command of an abandoned Cardassian space station and make an incredible discovery that will change the galaxy and Sisko's future. Hey, Keaton, what's up? Mr. Leon, what's happening? Welcome, guys.
And Sisko gets emotional closure right out of the gate.
Yeah, you know, I love that too. I mean, I think that the emotional arc of the first episode is Sisko learning to deal with the loss of his wife.
Yeah.
Basically at the hands of Jean-Luc Picard.
Right.
Because when Picard was Locutus of Borg against his own will, at the Battle of Wolf 359, he like massacred, you know, the entire Starfleet fleet. Starfleet fleet. And I love how this episode starts. Yeah. I love that it starts with seeing the Battle of Wolf 359 for the first time ever.
Right.
I actually just watched The Best of Both Worlds with Andy a couple days ago because she and I have been watching some Star Trek, and she watched this with me, and she might stop in and give her opinions on this episode. So just watching the first episode of DS9 and seeing a battle from TNG that was skipped over because they didn't have the budget to show the Battle of Wolf 359. So the Enterprise just swoops in after the battle's over in The Best of Both Worlds Part 2, the season premiere of Season 4 of Star Trek The Next Generation. You see the aftermath of this battle where Picard has just destroyed everybody as Locutus of Borg. But then to get to see that from the actual perspective of a bridge crew that is being killed, basically.
Right.
I mean, Sisko's old ship. I mean, this would be such a traumatic experience. Like, you're on this ship with all of your friends and your comrades, and they're all being destroyed by someone that was a Starfleet officer that you should know and trust, but is all of a sudden killing you.
Right.
And then your wife dies in the middle of that as you escape and your ship is blown up. Like, it's very intense.
Right.
And just to see that, I thought was so cool.
Yeah. It also shows why it's ridiculous to put families on starships, but that's a separate discussion.
Yeah, I mean,
at least not when you can go fight a Borg cube. Yeah,
that's something that I have been thinking about also because of this episode.
Right.
And I still kind of fall on the side of, you never know what's going to happen. And these are ships of discovery and exploration. They're not trying to get into fights.
Sure.
They will fight if they have to. But no one is safe from the Borg. I mean, if you're not in a ship out in space battling the Borg, they're going to come to Earth and destroy all of humanity. So I feel like taking the chance... I feel like I would want to be a Starfleet officer, and I would want my family on board.
Right.
And I think even knowing the risk, I'd still want that.
Well, they do a good aside in this one, which I don't think they were explicit about in TNG, where... what's her name?
Jennifer?
Yeah, says that, well, it's not often that, when Jennifer and Ben are talking, and the discussion is around how, there aren't a lot of families that want to serve on a starship with captains.
Right.
Like, they're kind of going back and forth about, should we have kids?
Right.
And then she's basically saying, yeah, I'm okay, risking my life and our future child's life to be with you on a spaceship.
Yeah, and I respect that and appreciate that, and I think I would make the same choice. And I love that Sisko is a family man because we've never had a lead on a Star Trek show who is a family person.
Right.
Captain Kirk was a Lothario, and Captain Picard was married to his work.
Right.
And then Sisko is, like, really into his family and, like, a great dad. Like, really great dad. And I love how they set that up with just good acting. I mean, you can just tell that, that Jake and Ben are close and have that relationship, and it feels like it's been going for.
And I like that Avery Brooks is so touchy,
or
with
Jake's whole life.
I know. He's like, my boy.
I know his acting is so good.
It's so physical. I love it though.
Since you're reaching up here, you just reminded me. I have a present for you.
Oh, we're gonna go back in time and view the past.
This is an orb of the prophets.
Which orb?
That is up to you to decide. I think it's the Orb of Time, because that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head.
If we make it to the season finale, I'll open that.
Doug is brooksing the camera. Yeah, you're welcome to leave it here, but it is now yours. It is a good luck charm for our new endeavor.
Yeah.
My parents found a giant box of action figures when they were cleaning out my grandpa's house where I used to live in San Diego. And they sent it up here, and that was in the box. And I was like,
nice.
This is perfect.
Yeah, that's great.
There was also a Ben Sisko in there that is now sitting upstairs.
I saw that up there, and for a second I was like, is that one of the orb boxes? That's pretty cool.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice it, and you did, but didn't mention it. So I got everything I wanted.
Nice.
It worked out fine. Keaton says, well, the Galaxy class Enterprise D has the separation which could protect the families, but yeah, it's stupid to have families on the ships. The ships are for exploration, not battle. Yeah, you're like arguing yourself as you're saying it.
You start to say it out loud, you're like, wait, no, that is silly, isn't it?
What's up, gamer guy? What's happening? See, these are our sponsor emotes, Doug.
Oh, nice.
So we got Zoidberg, me, Andy, Miles, Fry. This is a LaCroix can, but the flavor is Jeff Goldblum's chest.
Mercury thirsty.
Yeah. And then this is Power Crystals. It's our in-chat currency.
Oh, nice.
So you can actually... Here, I'll just start a space flight, because Doug's new to all this, you guys.
Power crystals should be...
Space flight. So you can risk power crystals to go on a space flight. Were you going to say it should be dilithium crystals?
No, it should be gold pressed platinum.
Oh, it should be platinum. That's a good idea. Currency. Fuck, that's a good idea.
Somebody back there earlier said that if this was a show done today, they would definitely have dragged out Sisko's pain.
I wanted to say something about that.
I think that's correct. I think it's 100% correct.
Yep.
It was good to have the emotional closure in a show that traditionally has been so episodic. But yeah, if you were going to do that today, I think you would play that out more. Also, I think you would do something different with the whole wormhole time ghost anyways. as they're presented now, it's just they kind of just make it up as they go. It feels like where by the time you get to the end of the series, you're like, wait a minute, you assholes said that you didn't understand linear time, but you clearly already know and remember, Cisco, if linear time for you doesn't work that way. You know, it creates this whole strange scenario.
Yeah.
They never talk about, like, they never make any hints at all that there's a connection between Cisco and the wormhole aliens that does come out later on. They don't seed that early. But if you were doing this now,
Right.
you would plan that out. You would know that. You would start to put in weird future glimpses with this stuff.
I agree with you. That's actually one of my 2 least favorite moments of Deep Space Nine. And we won't go into the specifics now in case people are watching this for the first time, but yeah, that happens in season 7, and I think that that's a huge misstep.
Right. They could have planted seeds. They could have done some hints.
I think that the planning for the show, as far as where it goes and where it starts, for me, I'm totally satisfied.
Yeah.
Besides that one thing,
Right.
I think that the issues with the linear time stuff. I mean, when you go into the wormhole, you meet the wormhole aliens, the quote unquote wormhole aliens. Sometimes, yeah, or Cisco does anyway.
Right.
There's like these creatures that live in the wormhole that may or may not be the prophets
Right.
of Bajor.
They may or may not have a planet.
Of Bajor. Yeah, they may or may not have a solid ground you can land on. It's all very nebulous and doesn't quite make sense.
Right.
Hey, Pat Rick, what's up, man? Welcome. Wait, I missed Keaton's comment here. Yeah, there for exploration.
Somebody
Probably didn't. Yeah. It's like they know that ships might go into battle, but it's not the priority, and they don't assume that it's going to happen. I like the idea of they just don't live in fear. You know, they don't let fear dictate their family choices. Like, if I want to be with my family versus being, you know, a career military person, that could be a really hard decision to make. But I like the idea that in the future, maybe you don't have to make that decision. You can bring your family with you. Yeah. And I think that if you looked at the statistics of it, probably most of the time it's safe.
I was just thinking, there's people who are going, you know, statistically more people die in car accidents than on spaceships.
That's true. That's definitely true.
Still,
right
road
now
travel
that is true.
Is the most dangerous thing in the 24th century.
Yeah, but I always like that about Next Generation, and I love that that's like a core concept of Deep Space Nine. What's up, Almighty Hawk? Welcome. Yeah, we were talking about the wormhole aliens. Yeah, so for me, what's set up in the first episode pays off in the final episode, and is really well developed over 7 years, and in a really satisfying way. And I will tell you, dude, when I rewatched this episode a couple nights ago, the first moment that DS9 showed up on screen, I got like teary-eyed. I like almost cried. Just so happy to see Deep Space Nine. It's just like, wow, this is.
And then the Enterprise shows up. You must.
I know the Enterprise is like there with Deep Space Nine.
Voyager screws by.
Fuck Voyager. I don't. Yeah, Voyager can do whatever it wants.
Swirls in, swirls out.
Discovery like pops in out of the mycelial network. Anyway, yeah. So and going back to the idea of like wrapping up that emotional closure of Ben dealing with his wife's trauma. I mean, his relationship with Picard is kind of the representation of him being able to let go of those feelings of anger. Yeah. Because it's not Picard's fault, you know? Right. And over the course of the pilot, Cisco is able to internalize that fact and let it go. Yeah. He can't, I mean, I get it. Like, he can't help but be mad at Picard, even though Picard did not have a choice and was, I mean, like, there's a lot of you know, rape analogies to be made with what happened to Picard, with becoming Locutus of Borg and having his free will taken from him in a very violent way. It's really upsetting and disturbing, and I feel like most people would be empathetic to that and not blame him for anything that he did in that state, unless he killed your wife, in which case I could imagine, like, shit, I would hold a grudge, you know?
Yeah, that's...
I think I would definitely, if that were me, I would hold a grudge for sure. Yeah, so... Oh, Patrick's going to outer space.
All right.
He had a hyperdrive malfunction and needs to return to the mothership. That's a bummer. Didn't go well. Sorry, Patrick. Yeah, so the space flight's just like an in-chat game where it's like a text game. Okay. Where you like win or lose, and you can gamble with your power crystals. You can have lightsaber battles.
Gambling, eh?
Yeah. All sorts of fun stuff. And I remember being a kid and watching this for the first time and being so disturbed that Picard is kind of the bad guy in this episode. Right. It's something that Andy mentioned when we watched it, is that he's kind of like the the antagonist of the episode.
Because he's so cold and distant about the fact that it happened. It's like, oh,
Right.
look, here I'm this evil, red-eyed monster robot, and I killed your family. And then, boom, 3 years later, yeah, back to being a captain. It's all cool.
Yeah.
And, oh, I knew you from Wolf 359.
Yeah.
Okay.
The acting on
Nice.
both sides
That's
is
pretty good.
so good because you can just like the anger in Cisco and also the like when Cisco mentions that I was at the Battle of Wolf 359, Picard just shuts off. Like he
Yeah.
just turns off and
He's
does
probably
not
sick of hearing
address
about
it. Yeah, Justin, probably exasperated about it coming up again and again. I mean, he probably deals with this all the time of like angry Starfleet officers being like,
Well,
"You killed my family and my crew, you asshole."
His inbox must be a nightmare.
Totally.
R.E. Wolf 359. Investigate the truth of 359.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Wolf 359 was an inside job.
Yeah, Menace says he shouldn't be apologizing. It is almost akin to rape. Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I feel like it's a really bold decision to put your captain and then the new commander at odds in the first episode. I remember being a kid and being like, I don't know about this new guy because he can't forgive. He can't forgive Picard, and I feel like he should be able to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad and frustrating that he isn't. But as watching it as an adult, I'm like, I totally get it. I totally see why he couldn't forgive Picard.
Well, I think Avery Brooks does. It's one of the best things in this, perhaps the best thing in the pilot here, is when the moment when he realizes that he needs to let go of Jennifer. It's like a wordless thing. It's like two sort of almost gasps that Avery Brooks makes, and it's perfect. He does such a great job of conveying so much emotion without speaking, and just his head and eye movements.
His eye acting.
Yeah, it's
nuts.
It's perfect. It sounds weird to say it, but it is so well done.
It's so. I'm glad you think so.
It's him simultaneously expressing the emotion of, I don't want to let this go, but I know that I have to let it go, but I know that I don't want to let it go. He's like going through this like false start loop before he's like, I'm letting it go.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
really impressive. Avery Brooks is a really, I think, an interesting actor overall. He makes a lot of
bizarre
interesting choices. Yeah,
he's like,
but he's
when he goes back in time, he's like, I just, ow!
yeah.
It's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
Almighty Hawk, if you're looking for, you said you wanted a recap. I just posted a link to the episode we're talking about of Deep Space Nine. You can read the entire synopsis of the episode there if you want to know what we're talking
Here's
about.
the recap. They find a hole in space, and then they move the space mall next to the hole. End of episode.
That's it.
That's basically it.
Agent Icy, welcome. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
The rest of it all gets sorted out as you go.
Yeah.
But that's the main essence, is that they have to put the Deep Space Nine in front of the wormhole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Avery Brooks is an interesting dude in real life, says Super Hamster.
Yeah, there's some, if you look at some of like the convention footage of his speaking and stuff, I think it's great.
He just like exudes jazz.
Yeah.
if that makes sense. He's a very cool dude. I talked to someone, I don't remember who it was. Someone told me they met him at a convention. He was just like the nicest person they'd ever met.
I like to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. So his eye acting though, he just like makes he's just like. Mm-hmm. Just like these little things that just like convey so much emotion.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it, but it's really fantastic.
And he's like a acting teacher, right? Or like
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Oh boy, it's embarrassing. I should have looked this up. I thought that was something in his background. It's
That sounds right. Oh, it was you. It was John. You met him he's always wearing sunglasses. You met him at a convention. I've met several Star Trek actors at a convention. I met Aaron Eisenberg, who plays Nog, who is one of my favorite characters, by the way.
Yeah, because he's like ageless. He's Jake becomes like a beanstalk giant by the end.
Yeah.
And Eisenberg does not.
One of, if not my favorite episode is Only a Paper Moon, which is Adam Letourneau, what's up, man? Welcome. Which is all about Nog. I love that episode, the one where he goes into the holodeck.
Oh yeah,
with Vic.
Yeah.
Vic Fontaine. Can't wait till we get to Vic Fontaine.
Still worse than my Mycelial Network.
So am I, Super Hamster. I invited Aaron Eisenberg to come on my podcast, and he agreed to do it, and then I never heard from him again. But there was a moment. Yeah, it was still nice. It's very exciting. There was a moment. Very exciting.
The guy that plays who's the Klingon? The Bartok.
Oh, Martok.
Martok.
J.G. Hertzler. He's the captain of Cisco's ship. I noticed that.
Yeah, he's like a Romulan or something, or
a Vulcan,
or
maybe.
Vulcan.
Yeah, must be a Vulcan.
Yeah, must be a Vulcan. Good point.
J.G. Hertzler is amazing. He, with Jeffrey Combs, plays like all of the background characters on this show.
But with him, his voice is like, you can't hide that voice under any like.
Yeah. Martok is my #1 favorite Klingon.
That's fair.
My absolute favorite Klingon. He is an incredible character that I fucking love.
Mine is Alexander.
Oh, that's a good choice.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Everyone hates Alexander. He's the worst.
Well, Worf being a bad dad is interesting.
Well, Worf is a terrible father.
Terrible, terrible. Oh, you met Martok too. That is awesome.
We're getting into the future here.
Yeah.
I'll do my best not to do spoilers. But no promises.
Yeah. Well, maybe some light spoilers, but
it's been 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah, that's true. Alexander is emo. He is so emo. He's the essence of emo. Okay, so then we jump forward 3 years, and Jake and his dad are on the holodeck, and he's like, "We're going to Deep Space Nine.
Let's take the fishing hole with us."
Yeah, let's take the fishing with us. Which I don't know why, but that scene just seems so iconic to me.
Yeah,
for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dad with his son out fishing in the country, you know.
Yeah.
And then I think it is a nice twist when it's the holodeck, even though it's kind of an easy reveal for Star Trek. But it honestly tricked me the first time I saw it.
Yeah, me too.
Even this time, it didn't necessarily trick me, but I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's on a holodeck.
Yeah, and they've been living at the Utopia Planitia shipyards for 3 years.
Right.
Just probably Sisko's just doing like desk work or something like that.
He does love his pads.
Yeah, this show finally answers the question: how do pads work? You remember when Jake is like writing with a stylus?
Yeah, and you have stacks of them because apparently they can hold one email.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Adam
says, I had a very similar moment with my father at a fishing hole before he passed. Different meaning for you. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. See,
I mean, that's not cool that your father passed away. I'm very sorry to hear that.
Right, but that I think it's an evocative type of scene, you know.
Yeah, but it's so cool to. I think for anyone who's ever gone fishing with their dad, which I've never done because I've never gone fishing, it just never came up.
Yeah.
But for anyone who's gone fishing with their dad or their mom or whatever, I think that might have like some extra meaning that could be really cool. And you know. Also, anyone who likes baseball, which I don't. So.
There's a lot of baseball.
Oh, there's so much baseball.
Ben loves baseball.
Yeah. Hi. Look who's here. Come on in.
Welcome to space.
You want to sit? Here, you want to sit in my lap?
I'm like, am I on the screen? Sure. I'm about to go for a bike ride, but
cool.
I'll sit here for a second.
Andy's here.
By the way, I was overhearing the conversation. I have gone fishing with my dad.
Oh, yes.
And I felt that scene was very accurate. Ooh, look at this arm.
We got some shoulder and some lower face.
Andy shoulder in space.
Andy's been watching ASMR videos, so she's getting into the lower face.
It's research, okay. And I'm just learning what it is all about. Because there is a whole phenomenon happening, people.
Yeah.
Here, why don't you come on this side of me so you can see your face?
Well, then I'm blocking you.
Well, I can be over here. Can we see Andy?
Wow, this is really working.
There we go. So, Andy, how does it feel to be in the vacuum of space, traveling backwards through warp speed?
It feels a lot like being in our basement. Which is a good feeling.
Yeah. Andy, what did you think of the first episode of Deep Space
Nine? Hello. Adam. Oh my gosh. Well, I have to give a caveat, which is that while we were watching... I was extremely tired.
Yeah.
It was the end of a long day, and I kept doing that thing. I don't know if this happens to any of you, but like you're awake just enough to like continue to watch, but every once in a while you'll notice your eyes are closed.
I can sleep through the scene.
Yeah, you know.
I kept poking her and be like, "Do you want to stop?" And she's like,
No. That's how good it was, though. I was like, we have to keep watching. And Jesse made me watch the last episode of a TNG,
we watched Best of Both Worlds parts 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Before, so that she'd have some frame of reference for Wolf 359.
Context, yes.
And everything was happening with Picard and the pilot.
It was a lot of information at once, let me tell you. But I don't know, are you going chronologically through the episode?
We're kind of jumping around. You can go anywhere you want.
Talking about Star Trek stuff? Yeah.
Okay, great. Well,
Jesse says no spoilers, but he's wrong.
Oh.
Well, Andy has no spoilers to give.
Oh.
Well, I do.
She hasn't seen... Well,
the first episode.
Yeah, you can spoil the first episode.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Then
I'm spoiling left and right. I'm spoiling series we aren't talking about.
Good thing I'm not listening then. Well, I am sort of, but okay. What do I want to say about it? Well, I feel like, oh gosh, there's so much. I think my favorite thing was this idea of these beings that have no concept of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and that exploration of that, because that's a really hard thing to address in a TV show. I think it's such a massive subject matter, and I feel like they were really simple in their way that they kind of used that idea, and just dipping in and out of that like white background with the face, and like having their voice be through the people that he knows.
I did like the technique that they use for that of describing.
Very simple and very
Yes,
effective.
I thought that it was really clear. I think you could have gotten really convoluted with that sort of concept, and I also, because the way our brains work is that we use references of things we already know to categorize other things. Like there's a mechanism in your brain that if I look at that stool and then I look at that chair, I know that that's a chair and that's a stool, even though they have really similar things. Or I know this is a chair and that's a chair, even though they don't look the same. So like you use categories in your brain, and I think to like label things and understand things. So the idea that like you would encounter a being without a form and you would just instantly replace that with something you already know makes a lot of sense.
That's
Right,
interesting.
You're taking
I always
it as their
assumed,
brain making it.
Yeah, that's
I always
what I
assumed that it was the wormhole aliens going into his mind and choosing who to appear as
that's
based off of how it
interesting.
would how he would interpret what they were saying, needing to come from different figures in his life.
That's kind of brilliant.
But I
think
actually
that-
really like your idea that maybe it's just Cisco's mind interpreting their presence in a way that makes sense to him. Which actually reminds me of Babylon 5 with the Vorlons and angels and all that stuff.
So I have a thing that I'm doing this time while I watch Deep Space Nine, which is to imagine that the most of the visions that people have are not conscious directed things from the aliens, that it's basically just a human mind coming into contact with some weird out of phase, out of time, unknowable thing, and then it's their own brains basically creating all of this. Like even Cisco's closure about the death of his wife.
Yeah.
In my mind, one take on this is that, oh no, it's just his own brain doing this to him. You know, maybe he's getting influenced a little bit, like he touched this thing that let him go back into the past, that gets him dwelling about his wife. He's just seen Picard. He's got all this shit swirling around in the old noodle, and then he's in this wormhole, but it's not like they're these wormhole aliens who are like, oh, we want to talk to you, we want to get some stuff done, you know?
Yeah.
That it's just a thing that sort of occurred to him. And the reason I think that is, well, I don't know if I believe it, but it's a way that I want to try to watch the series, imagining, because when I did rewatch it recently, towards the end, I was like, you know what? If you weren't seeing all of the scenes of the wormhole aliens, Cisco would look like a lunatic, because he makes certain choices based on the things that they tell him to do.
Totally.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
so
there are
Spoiler
points.
alert.
I think there are points throughout the series where he does seem like a lunatic, like a religious fanatic.
But
almost.
us as the viewers, we get to see this, like, well, he did have this secret communication from these alien ghosts things, so...
Right.
I just remembered
Interesting.
something I was going to say earlier. We were talking about the wormhole aliens having a concept of Cisco's past and not telling him that.
Right.
Because they don't... I mean, because they are non-linear, and that doesn't seem to make sense.
Right.
But I actually...
It's not his past to them.
I think, I think that it is not his past to them. Like, they literally don't understand that he has a past.
Right.
And I think that the show does a 90% good job of trying to tell a story in which some of the main characters have no sense of time.
Right.
Because we can't really understand that, because we cannot take our brains out of our linear existence.
Right.
So to even write something where that's not the way that people perceive is really hard.
Yes,
And
I think
they
it's-
do a really good job. There's a couple times where it doesn't make sense. It's like what they know and what they don't know doesn't seem to quite add up sometimes.
Right.
But I think overall the writers do a really good job of at least like presenting something that's so fantastically out there that makes almost sense, enough sense for me to follow along with the story. I think that's actually a trend in Deep Space Nine, is that it all makes like just enough sense.
Just enough sense.
Yeah, where it's less, it's much less of a scientific sci-fi show than Star Trek usually is.
Right.
It's a little more like take this thing on faith, and it's a little more of
space magic.
What's the word? Intuitive storytelling, I think.
Yeah.
Where like intuitively it makes sense, but factually it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, once you scratch at it. I like the idea of the beings that have nonlinear time. I think from the writers, their job though here was a swing and a miss. I think I think that they didn't do an adequate job. As you watch it, it basically except for when they're talking to somebody and they're like, well, I don't understand what time is, they're presented as very linear. Like they have knowledge that accumulates over time as they meet these people.
Right.
They don't, it doesn't ever come across to us. In the instance when they show them communicating with people, they make this like disjointed time jumble thing. But I think on a broader level, they just kind of just wave their hands at it, like, it's not linear.
Right.
Just
I think that's
it.
true, because if they were to meet Cisco and not understand linear time, and he explains it to them, that happens in linear time.
Right.
So by the end of the first episode, when he's kind of explaining to them how time works, which is so cool, by the way, like so cool to see. It doesn't make sense that they could gain knowledge. They should have all knowledge that they're ever going to have.
And I agree with Andy, where it's like, it is this big concept, and it is presented in a very simple way. They don't make it overly complex, but I think at its essence, it would have to be nothing but complex.
Right. That's so true.
But I do like
true.
it, because I do think, for me, this is... Like, I will nitpick. I love nitpicking.
Yeah.
But I 100% just go, yep, this is like space-time magic. These You just accept that these are non-linear beings, and you don't really get it in the detail of the show, but that's just the way that it works. Just like you accept that halfway through the episode, they're like, please don't come through the wormhole. It really fucks us up. And at the end of this one, they're like, nah, it's cool, bro. You guys can come through whenever you want. Like, what is it then?
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
For me, the story that they're telling is worth telling, to the point where I kind of start to forgive these things that don't make sense, because they're dealing with ideas that are like so big. It's like a what?
It's like a mushroom network. It's just, you accept it.
That's
you need
what
it for the story. You don't really get into the details of it.
See, and for me, the mycelial network actually crossed the line where I couldn't accept it, because it made so little sense.
My goal is to keep each episode nudging you closer and closer to going, you know what, you're right, fuck it. The mycelial network is fine. It fits squarely within Star Trek.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said before, if they put it post-Dominion War, it would have made sense to me. It's just like...
So you're so close. You're so
close. It's like small adjustments.
It's not the mycelial network I have an issue with. It's the fact that we've never heard about it in like decades of Star Trek history after this that makes no sense.
Yeah,
Section 31.
The
keeping it all under wraps.
Maybe.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, see, if they said in the season finale, like, we're not going to use this mycelial network anymore, and like, we can't talk about it, I don't know. If they just said something like that, it would have made sense and been fine.
I'm curious
They're going to 100% bear that up.
Where it goes.
I hope
so. The new show, because it has new showrunners, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the showrunners were fired for abusing the staff.
Ooh.
And my sensibilities as a Star Trek viewer.
That was factored in.
That was part of the... Yeah, I wrote a letter to CBS.
What was interesting to me too, though, about that like whole scene and that sequence is that, in some ways, if you really strip away all of the context, it's essentially a man who has dealt with loss and trauma, and essentially kind of like the voice of a therapist, like guiding him through how to move on from that.
Live here.
Right.
I don't want to be here. Well, then just don't be here.
Right.
Like, you have to face and relive the thing you went through, which is like a ton of therapeutic method is about that, and face and like really actually this wall you build that prevents you from reliving it, that you think is keeping you safe, is actually what's stopping you from moving on.
It's very beautiful. And just even the fact that
so
he's looking at them as though they're doing this to him is also an example of kind of denying that you yourself are creating this thing that you're stuck in.
Yes, you know? Totally.
Absolutely.
Which I also wonder, like, now I'm so curious, based on your critique, which I think is actually really legit and not something I thought about, is like, what if the way that they're relaying information in terms of them learning about time and the linear way of their communication, maybe that's his brain interpreting their interaction, like maybe we're seeing it from his understanding of the interaction. It would be so, I know the show doesn't do this, it'd be so cool to see it from their point of view of what happened. Like, I would be so curious to see what their perspective on that event was. You know?
Yeah, Amanda says, the question being, is it them guiding him through it, or him utilizing them to find his own way?
Totally.
Yeah, I think, you know...
I always thought it was the former. I want to think it, this time watching it, that it's the latter.
I thought it was the latter this time also. I felt like they just keep saying, like, why do you live here? Because they don't get it. They literally don't understand why he lives in that moment in his mind. Because they can... I think it's very clear that they can see into his mind. And they can see everything that he is as a person. Everything that he has been up to this point. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that explains the linear progression of their knowledge of him is that until he gets there, they don't have it because he hasn't experienced it yet, and they're seeing him through his own mind.
He makes them linear.
Maybe his interactions with them are linear, even though they are not linear. But yeah, like I was saying, I feel like there's no way to do it that makes 100% sense. And I'm still glad they did it.
I am too. It's an interesting part of the storytelling, and I will continually come back to picking at what the orbs are, what the aliens are, what the wormhole is for the entire run.
Right.
Because I do think that they get wacky with it.
Yeah.
I'm so curious.
Because right now we have one orb that's on Deep Space Nine. The Canarsians have 11 or 12. They've got like supposedly
all the rest of them.
Yet we just saw one that they used as like a throwaway spaceship to shrink down or.
When they moved Dax?
Yeah.
I think that. My interpretation of that was not an actual orb of the prophets. It's just that when they send something out of the wormhole into the real world, it looks like that.
So everything.
Also, hello,
like
Rigoberto and Alex. Welcome, guys.
I've been ignoring the chat. Sorry, guys.
Lightspeed is a hit.
Oh, thanks, Alex.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to get on this bike ride.
Awesome.
This was awesome, though. Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by, Andy.
That was
Stop
very
by.
exciting.
Every episode.
Super
I would
fun.
love to.
I'm gonna keep watching the show with Andy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was so hard for us to stop after watching the pilot.
Yeah.
We really wanted to watch more.
It's good to watch something in dribs and drabs, though. You know, I think it does help in an episodic way, because if you binge it, then just all the seams are so visible. The giant shifts in tone between episodes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And giving yourself a buffer is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Into it.
Okay,
Right.
we have so much to talk about here. We got to talk about the other characters, because we haven't even gotten into the other characters. So when you get to Deep Space Nine, you meet all these amazing characters that are going to
Belly Monster. Goo Man.
Wait, who's Lieutenant Belly Monster?
The one that's got a pouch in her stomach.
Oh, Dax. Okay, gotcha.
Slug inside of it.
I think the first one you meet is Miles O'Brien.
Yeah.
Which, for me, is like a longtime Next Generation fan. The fact that Miles O'Brien was a main character on Deep Space Nine filled me with so much joy.
Yeah.
I love Colm Meaney. I think he's an amazing actor.
I mean, it's clearly just a like fan service thing, or like, hey, we're doing a new show.
I think he earned it by being awesome on TNG.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I think it's a good call. I think it logically works with the show.
Yeah.
But clearly it's a thing that they're manufacturing as far as like, okay, we need to get some TNG kind of spin-off connection thing here. We need to bring some fans over.
His character isn't your favorite, Amanda. Yeah, they actually originally wanted Ensign Rowe to play Major Kira.
Right,
it was originally Ensign Rowe.
Which makes sense. And there's when you read through some of the stuff, there's all kinds of things like the Tom Paris character was supposed to be somebody that was on Enterprise played by the same actor, but they didn't want to pay money to the person who had written the episode. So.
Yeah, Tom Paris was Nick Locarno on an episode of TNG.
Right.
And they just renamed him, and he was the same exact character.
Everything the same.
Just so they wouldn't have to pay residuals to the writers of that episode of TNG for every episode of Voyager.
Right.
Which is so ridiculous.
But the doing that, like, continuing thing, it's kind of the dumb thing that Star Wars does, where, like, everybody's related to each other. Like, it doesn't have to be that way.
I mean, for me, like, Miles O'Brien coming over was supernatural and totally worked. It's not supernatural, but super natural.
It's not as bad as when they shoehorn Worf in.
Yeah, for me, Worf was shoehorned, but we'll get to that hopefully someday.
Keep the show going so I can complain about Worf.
Yeah, I mean, so far, I'm like 100% into this.
Yeah.
And I'm having so much fun and want to do this all the time.
But yeah, so they introduced Miles just to make sure that some TNG fans watch. But it's good, it works out.
It does work, and I feel like his character is instantly different on Deep Space Nine than he was on TNG.
They do a great job of showing it, like, hey, Miles, wasn't this your favorite room to push a button in? Yeah. But it's also just a room. Then, like, half hour later, like, oh, move this, gotta move the power over here, I'm doing the thing, and I gotta do the thing. Like, he actually gets to be involved in fixing a problem.
Yeah, it's a huge promotion for Miles O'Brien. Like, to become basically the chief engineer. See you, Corey. Thank you so much for hanging out, man.
Bye!
It's interesting, his scene with Picard where he says goodbye to Transporter Room 3, which we all now know is Miles O'Brien's favorite Transporter room, which makes no sense. I love that scene.
It's close to the bathroom.
I love that. Has anyone seen Miles O'Brien at Work, the comic strip?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it is
so
brilliant.
It's dark and sad.
Everyone go look up Miles O'Brien at Work.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's amazing. It's a comic strip online. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Close to 10 forward. Well, let's see. Transporter
Yeah.
room 3. What deck is that on? I don't know.
Oh boy, someone knows.
Yeah, what decks do the transporters start? I don't know.
Right. I'm gonna make a note for next week to do
Yeah,
the
that's a
homework.
good
of, like,
question.
Given all of the transporter rooms, why is this one his favorite?
Totally.
All right, I am gonna write myself a note. Is it okay if I take notes?
Oh,
while-
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you do what you want, man. You do you. But it's interesting that he doesn't say anything to Picard as far as, like, thank you or it was an honor serving with you. All he says is, like, it was just a room.
It was just a room, right?
Yeah. I feel like immediately it's almost like he's been sucking up for years on the Enterprise, and now that he's got his own domain, he doesn't have to do that anymore. It's
I
interesting.
took it to be that he goes out of his way to be like, I don't have emotions. Like, when he's on the bridge, he's clearly like, hey, so I'm leaving. I want everyone to see that I don't recognize any of these assholes. I'm just gonna. Hey, do you want us to go get Picard? No.
Yeah, that's
cool.
true.
I'm just gonna split.
He wants Picard to see him,
Or
but
Riker or
he
Troy
can't
or-
bring himself to ask.
Yeah. He wanted anyone on the bridge to be like, "Oh, Miles, see you later," and then be like, "It's no big deal."
Just so that's maybe he secretly beams in hooch from Guinan's stash. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, the real stuff. Some actual Irish whiskey. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that he is kind of trying to act less emotional than he is, and that makes that scene make more sense where he says goodbye to Picard.
Yeah,
and I think you get the sense that those two men have an understanding, and those words don't need to be said. Hey, Wainsey, what's up, man? Good to see you. Ryan Casey, holy shit! High five, Ryan Casey. Wish you were here.
Show no emotion.
How's LA, my friend?
Show no emotion.
Miss you already.
The Irish way.
It's the Irish way. There you go. Yeah, that's true.
It comes across like that. It really does. It felt like he was fishing for it, and then was like, no, but I don't really want it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it tracks with his character while at the same time being a new sort of facet of his character.
Well, because now they're going to develop him into a character. He's not going to just be, the Irish button pusher.
They immediately pull him back emotionally so that they can kind of do what they want with him throughout the course of the series. But there's something about the way that Miles O'Brien works with machinery that makes it real to me.
Yes.
Like the way that he works with devices, and I think Geordi had this also, LeVar Burton had this also, that the way that they spit out technobabble and the way that they pretend to push buttons just makes it feel like the ship actually works.
Well, the way they have it set up, the dynamic here, at least in this one, is that Lieutenant Belly Monster is like the technobabble queen.
Oh my god.
And then O'Brien is like, oh, yeah, that would work. Let me go rip the shit out of everything and start connecting pipes and wires together.
Yeah.
Like, she comes up with the nonsense plan that should never work, and he's like, yep, okay, we can make that work.
Yeah, totally. I also love that O'Brien is another family man, so we're going to get to know his family on Deep Space Nine. We already have met them on TNG.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually interviewed the girl who played Molly O'Brien on my podcast a couple years ago, which was super interesting. But she said that Colmini and what's Keiko's actress's name?
Don't know.
I know this, and Rosalind Chow, I think. Okay. Rosalind Chow. She said that they were like her on-set parents in real life. Like, they were very sweet to her and treated her like their daughter. And that when they go to conventions and see each other, they're still like really close and it's still in touch, which I thought was super sweet.
That's nice.
Yeah, I love the whole Miles. I love the O'Brien family. I think that's super interesting. My dog is named Miles. I love this character. And traditionally, I've thought of Miles O'Brien as my favorite character on Deep Space Nine. Inkling Boy, welcome. What's up?
We'll get Miles of O'Brien by the end of the season.
Something I want to do, something Doug and I talked about doing, is at the end of every episode, we're going to decide who was our favorite character in that episode. Right. And then like make a spreadsheet and keep track so that by the end of the show we can say like who is our favorite character. Yeah. And not just like our favorite character, but also we're going to like rate the episode and then I want to talk about who had the best performance.
Sure.
Because that for me is different than my favorite character.
Yeah, not for me this time. It's Avery. Favorite character and best actor.
Yeah, spoiler. That was an interesting turn. Adam, that was a really interesting way of trying to write in a real life occurrence into the show because the woman who played Kira became pregnant with the man who plays Dr. Bashir's baby. Well, their baby.
Right.
Yeah. And they had to write that into the show somehow because those two like fell in love and got married briefly and then got divorced.
Yeah.
I saw her Nana Visitor, or I think is it Nana? I don't know how to say her name. Nana Visitor. She gave a talk at one of the conventions I went to, and she was amazing.
Oh,
she
nice.
was wonderful. Well, actually, let's talk about Kira, because Kira is a character that drove me crazy in the first few seasons of the show, who I started to love by the end of the show.
Yeah, I liked her in this one.
I liked her a lot. I think that this was me coming back to it as an adult, where I really liked her right out the gate.
Sure. Part of the problem is that racist Miles O'Brien sets the audience up to be like, hey, have you ever served with
Bajoran women
before?
That is totally
No,
the problem. That is the problem.
Well, you'll find out.
That is totally the problem. That's like very subtle sexism that sets up and racism, sure, that sets up that character to be unlikable.
Yeah.
And you get that several times from different people throughout the show, like that she's just like formidable and a pain in the ass, but
brass and ballsy.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, when you watch it with a modern perspective, if you ignore that stuff and treat it, well, not ignore it, but treat it for what it is, which is
Miles
bullshit.
Is kind of racist.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's a bullshit thing to say.
Yeah.
I don't think the writers knew it was bullshit, unfortunately, at that point, because we're still talking about like the 90s.
Right, and they do sort of try to scratch a little bit at like, is Miles racist because of all the like stuff that he suffered through the Cardassian Wars and whatnot?
Sure.
You know.
Well, oh, that reminds me. So Miles O'Brien fought the Cardassians at Setlik 3. He hates the Cardassians.
Right.
But, well, that's not true. He hates what the Cardassians made him become. And we know specifically because there's an episode of The Next Generation that goes into the backstory of Miles O'Brien and talks about his fighting the Cardassians and how, like, he's not racist against Cardassians, but he hates what they made him become.
Right.
And he's uncomfortable around them because of that.
He's not racist against Cardassians, but he does say things like, all Cardassian women are crazy.
Right. And maybe he is a little bit racist, but he tries not to be. And it's a very complex situation where, like, he fought them in a war and watched them, like, massacre women and children, and it's hard not to hold on to those feelings. Right. But I feel like they don't go into that on Deep Space Nine that much.
It's one of these things
they really could, and they should, I think.
It's modern sensibilities, like you said, versus 90s, where they just kind of lay that there and they don't delve deeper. It's the same thing later on with, like, Julian, where they're like, oh, Julian's just like a fun, flirty guy. Like, no, Julian's a fucking hella creep.
Yeah, his characterization is really uneven. I think the most uneven of everyone.
They smooth him out a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But then they also kind of laugh it off. We're like, Quark is like, oh, Quark is a bad guy, and he's the one who's like, you know, making unwanted advances to Kira immediately. And
super creepy and gross, but Kira just shuts him down in a way that is really effective, I think.
But Quark is clearly identified as, like, the villain with a heart of gold.
Absolutely,
the Starfleet people, it's like, no, these Starfleet people are, you know, the heroes with hearts of evil and darkness. You know?
Yeah, totally. But
it's unexamined.
Juxtaposition.
It's unexamined.
Totally. Yeah. There are points in this show where they don't examine things that I wish they would, because it would make it a much richer experience. But yeah, so coming back to Kira,
the bloody Cardies can't be trusted. Cardies becomes like the sort of slurish thing that they refer to Cardassians as.
You hated Quark as a kid and you love him now. Yeah, it's interesting how this show like changes with time, how you interact with the characters, because Kira, for me now, in the first episode, where I used to actually be uncomfortable with her character, and I couldn't explain it.
Right.
But I think that it is because of how Miles treats her, where I like was apprehensive about her.
Right.
But watching it now, like, she is a survivor of a lifelong occupation for her. Like, Cardassians have been basically terrorizing her world her entire life. It's as if she were, you know, a Jew living under a Nazi regime. And that specifically is what they were trying to make allusions to, is that the Bajorans are kind of like Jews living under a Nazi regime. I've read that from the writers before, and the Cardassians are sort of like the Nazi regime, basically.
Right.
The occupying force that they kept Bajorans in camps and used them as slave labor.
And the Federation is the U.S. coming in to save
John?
everything.
Welcome, John. I don't know what this is. We're talking about Deep Space Nine.
World War II in space.
If anyone, I'll post this link again. If anyone has not seen the episode of Deep Space Nine we're talking about, there's a link to the Memory Alpha article about it so you can read about it. Thank you, John. You're awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, so she's a survivor. She's literally a terrorist. I mean, from the point of view of the Cardassians, she is a terrorist.
Well, in her point of view,
she's a freedom fighter. Like, she's like the rebellion in Star Wars from her point of view.
Right, but what's interesting is, again, because of the time, they just constantly she refers to herself as a terrorist later on. Like,
which just never happened post 9/11.
Now they would make a big thing out of, like, freedom fighter, and then only the bad guys say,
yeah, totally, like Firefly. Yeah, depending on which side of the war you're on, you're either a terrorist or a vigilante.
Yeah.
And
they do explore some of that stuff later.
They do with her. They do. And they really go in depth with her. And they really, really grow her character over time. And now I'm like really into her character from the first episode.
Yeah.
And I think another reason I didn't like her the first time I watched this is because I knew it was supposed to be Ensign Ro and wasn't, and I was just like, oh, it would be so cool if this was Ensign Ro.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, I agree.
So cool, and that seems like a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But
well, I
in
get it.
hindsight,
She didn't want to be in
she didn't
sci-fi
want to be
stuff.
pigeonholed.
I mean, she's kind of a good actor, so...
She's great. I saw her give a talk also, and she was good, but Nana Visitor was way better.
Yeah.
Which kind of made me feel like, oh, you know what? I'm okay with the fact that Nana Visitor became like this person in the Star Trek community because she's so great with the fans, and what they do with her character is so good over time. And I think that she's a really great actress and seems like a really cool person. She was making like a YouTube cooking show at one point, which is interesting. So yeah, at this point, I'm super on board with Kira. And also the dynamic of Kira and Odo being in the Bajoran military,
right,
and working with a Starfleet crew who is facilitating what is in essence a Bajoran station that used to be a Cardassian station. Like, what the fuck is that? It is so convoluted, but I love it. I love it. Like, this is Star Trek for grown-ups, you know? Like, for me, this it makes a lot less sense, but is more rewarding to kind of dive into the backstory of what's happening than anything that ever happened on Next Generation.
And this does make more sense than My Serial Network. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
That's always my bar. More or less sense.
Yeah, from now on, that is the barometer
Wormhole
of
time
nonsense.
Goes less sense than My Serial Network.
I'm still more sense on that one.
Okay, that's fair.
How about Q Continuum, more or less sense?
What Q Continuum is the needle gets buried.
Yeah.
The My Serial Network is like baseline. Q Continuum was way down here.
Yeah, Q Continuum,
it's space magic.
It goes back to the origins of this show and being like very Shakespearean, where basically they got a bunch of Shakespearean actors to say ridiculous shit in stupid costumes and have it be all high and mighty and be super interesting, and that's Star Trek, you know, that's what it is. The storyline didn't catch you up, you have to watch in order. That's so true. Like Deep Space Nine, it's really easy to get lost, and actually I think that the first episode doesn't quite explain the situation to my understanding. You know, like you have to. Oh, thanks, Gamer Guy. I don't understand a word you're saying, but I'm still listening. Yeah, Gamer Guy, you just came back. I just posted this link if you want to read the description of this episode that we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you
and I mean, we're getting deep into the characters. So if you haven't seen it, it's going to be like, wait, what's going on?
But hopefully still fun if you haven't seen it.
All you need to know right now is that a guy who loves baseball is in command of the ship that they have...
That's all you need to know.
All you need to know.
A guy who loves baseball.
Has parked the space mall in front of the tear in space.
Yes.
Yeah. And the tear in space leads to a different part of space.
Yeah.
With different people.
Which we're going to get to in a minute here. But yeah, so... Yeah, the Bajoran military kind of brustling...
Brustling.
Is that a word?
Could be.
Against the Starfleet crew, particularly Kira. I think, you know, I fucking love Odo. I love Odo so much. Odo is such a cool character. Are you not an Odo guy?
No, that's my Odo.
Okay. I love Odo because he's such a good judge of character, and I love characters who are a good judge of character. Baseball at the Space Mall, who have a big brawl with the Dominion, y'all. Yeah. Justin wins.
Hey, well done, Justin.
Justin, I'm gonna give you some power crystals for that.
Yeah. Oh, you're good typing.
I'm gonna give you 1,000 power crystals.
Boom.
Which is our in-chat currency. Because that was such a good sentence. Did I do it right? Axon Media Seattle. Did I spell that right?
That's a tough one.
It worked. There we go.
Boom.
Boom. You can gamble them. Actually, if you go into my Discord here's a link.
You should invest them in cryptocurrency.
If you go into my Discord, there's a whole channel that'll describe everything about power crystals. Yeah, so you can gamble them, you go on space flights, all sorts of fun stuff. So anyway, Odo is like such a great judge of character, and there's this moment where he like kind of sizes up Sisko and is like, I think I'm gonna be okay working for this guy.
I thought I was gonna hate him, but now he's fucking over this guy in a way that kind of bends the rules, but I hate the guy he's fucking over.
Yeah.
So I like him.
Which is an interesting moment because in the first episode of this show, Benjamin Sisko, our hero character, holds a young boy hostage.
Let's say a minor.
A minor, yeah. Nog is a minor at this point.
He's under the age of, what? He's got to be, what, 13?
He's, let's see,
13, 14? He's a kid.
He's probably about 14, I think you're right.
Yeah. Because they make it that he's about Jake's age.
John, at first you didn't think you were going to like him. Yeah.
So he's, and he legitimately did almost get caught robbing a store. I don't think they caught him robbing it. They just saw him near the scene of the crime.
Yeah, well, he was robbing. I think he was actively robbing the store.
I'm just saying they didn't catch him red-handed. They just saw him later.
I think that they had enough of a reason to arrest him for sure. But I feel like because he's a minor, the idea of like not releasing him to the family who's leaving is kind of against Starfleet morals.
Oh yeah,
like
it's
Quark
super blackmail.
Yeah, totally. Benjamin Sisko blackmails Quark to stay on the station by holding Nog hostage.
His nephew.
Straight up, yeah.
Quark
straight
is
up.
Nog's nephew.
Yeah.
Boy, this show.
Nog is Quark's nephew.
Nog is Quark's nephew. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's
this
a
is what's wrong with
show.
Star Trek.
This is what's right with Star Trek. Are you kidding me? This is the best. Yeah, so this time it never even occurred to me that was fucked up because as a kid I just kind of assumed that all the decisions that are made by the Starfleet crew are correct.
Right.
And I think that Deep Space Nine very specifically is trying to say that is not true.
They're making everything a bit shades of gray. Everyone's totally a bit darker, which is good because that's one of the problems with kind of utopian vision is like, well, this is boring as fuck,
Yeah, and they explicitly go into this later on in the show, but starting out this time I feel like it's just like a shade of that Sisko is willing to do what it takes for the greater good in his mind. And I think that that's something we talked about a lot in the Babylon 5 podcast that you and I did together, is that the show needs to comment on whether or not what the lead characters are doing is wrong if it is morally gray.
Right.
And Deep Space Nine for me absolutely does that. It has whole episodes about that.
Yeah.
Whereas Babylon 5 never even got into it.
Yeah, and I will say there's blind spots in Deep Space Nine, but there is more of a questioning of it, a deeper questioning of the gray area stuff.
Yeah.
Babylon 5's problem was that sometimes they didn't even look at it. It's like, that's not a gray area.
Totally.
That's just tricking aliens.
Right, we're just tricking aliens. And which it's so funny because Sisko does that in this episode.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it is commented on, but I also think that what he's doing is for Quark's own good, and I think that by the end of the episode, when he shuts down Quark's and Quark's all pissed off,
right?
Because Quark's like, I just found this way to make this great profit. Like, this is what I want to do,
right?
So he really comes around to that and wants to be a part of it, and like wants to stay and run his his bar by the end of the episode. But yeah, Odo seeing that that Sisko is willing to do that, he's like instantly on Sisko's side, which is kind of cool. I love the fact that that Odo is a changeling. The whole changeling thing is so concept, interesting. Yeah. But there's one moment that's super shoehorned into the episode that's like character development moment where they're about to go. Where are they going? They're gonna go explore the wormhole or something. Like,
oh, right. He's like, I'm coming along.
Exactly.
Because I popped out of that wormhole, probably.
Yeah, and it's just like really shoehorned character development. He's like, I never knew where I came from, and if you're going to the Denorius,
exposition.
That's where I appeared. And exposition. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just
very clunky exposition.
Very blatant. And that's part of the problem with episodic pilot stuff too, is that you could have planted seeds for Odo and then strung them along throughout the season. You don't have to, like you said, shoehorn it all in right now.
Although Odo is literally watching us right now, and so that's Odo and Kira and Julian Bashir that are watching us. So he's hearing everything we're saying about him, and they are standing incredibly still.
Yeah, it's because we are non-linear beings.
Yeah, this whole thing is happening in a moment.
Well, see, here's the thing about that, is that to them we are non-linear because I know everything that happens with Odo.
Yeah, well, we have already established that you and I, in the reality of what's actually on screen, we are the wormhole aliens.
We are the wormhole aliens.
Yeah, definitely. We are in hyperspace, and we can survive in space, and we're happening so fast that it appears that the people on screen are not moving.
We don't have a planet.
But they are alive.
That was chairs. That's what Sisko was laying down on. Who's laying down on our chairs?
Yeah, totally. I actually also think that the effects for Odo, his shape-shifting effects, have actually held up pretty well.
This is not bad. I was thinking that, I was like, this must have been hella expensive when they made this, and they clearly are like, we're not going to shy away from this. We're going to just like give you a long, steamy gawk at him shape-shifting. And that had to have been around the era of T2, right? Because that was when that kind of like morphing kind of thing, I feel like, was okay. We can do this now. Yeah, we can like do gooey liquid transformations of people.
Yeah,
but the T2 was like the $1 billion. Oh, that was me.
Green screen thing. Hold on, I'm gonna move this. I'm just gonna move the green screen.
I warped reality.
I just want to show everyone this. But look at this. Now we're like, now we're just in my room, which I think is really cool.
Wait. I see the most idyllic pasture.
Oh, we're in space.
I don't see you now. I see space again.
Yeah. Very exciting. Green screens are fun. Okay, I think I fixed it.
Oh, but on a side note.
Oh, you know, it's the light from outside. I've had this problem before. Hold on. Let me close these blinds a little bit more. I love this green screen.
Me too. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, it like.
That
It's
seems to have done it.
the one from Elgato, and you can just like set it up in almost a second.
Yeah.
Almost nude. Interesting. Don't know what you're talking about, but good
Well,
luck.
okay then. If you paid the crystals.
You love you Voyager. This is way overhead. Have you watched Deep Space Nine? Zelda Die Hard? You should watch it. It's awesome.
You should watch.
Isn't Odo technically always naked?
Yes.
Yes.
Odo is technically always naked. He does have a comm badge because in the future they'll show things where like, oh, he shapeshifts and he either absorbs it or drops it behind depending on what the plot needs. Odo, I should say, when I said my scale of like my Seal network, things that make kind of sense, and then things that are flat out ridiculous, Q continuum. Odo is like one hair down below the Q continuum because he turns into a bag that weighs nothing. Like he can just like manipulate mass on him. That just seems insane to me. There's like no explanation of that. And then they show him, he's like, oh look, he's this tiny little goo. Boom, big tall man.
Yeah.
Later on in a future episode, I'll wait to complain about it later. He turns into a glass that breaks, and then someone complains at one point like, oh, this guy's heavy. I don't like it.
Yeah, I like it. It works for me. I like that he is a super powerful character with weird limitations.
Yes.
Like he can't make his face look totally human.
Right.
But he's trying really hard. I mean, he's been working with Bajorans for most of his life. Why doesn't he try to have forehead ridges?
I don't know. And like his cheeks are weird in this one, and
yeah, the makeup is not exactly how it's gonna be.
How could you turn into a leather bag with a zipper, but you're like, noses are tough?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah,
That's
I don't know.
Blockage up here, Odo. You need to spend some time in the wormhole working through your shit. Like, maybe I have antagonism towards bipedal solids because they tortured me when I was a little ball of goo. That's why I can't turn into them, because I don't want to literally turn into them.
Interesting. There is an episode that goes into that a little bit more that I don't want to mention now, because it's one of my favorite moments in the show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yep. Which is such a cool episode where they go a little more in depth about his face not looking quite human in a way that's so surprising and interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I love him as a character. I love his arc in the show. Yeah, I mean, there are times where I feel like Odo is my favorite character.
Because science.
Yeah.
Space magic.
Space magic.
There's a difference.
But you know what doesn't make sense? It's just the way that the communicators work. I think that's below the mycelial network. That doesn't make sense.
Right, yeah. We're talking about fundamental Star Trek things. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, totally. Like, they click it, and then they talk into it, but then it's immediately connected to someone.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense, because, like, it doesn't... How does the system know who that they're talking to? Because it's like Picard to Data, and then Data says, yes, sir, immediately.
Right.
And then on Data's end, he hears Picard to Data. So it's like the communicator knows before Picard says Picard to Data that he's going to call Data.
Quantum
which
entanglement.
Doesn't make sense. I mean, my only theory is that it's an editing thing, where, like...
No, they're just editing it bad.
There's like when he says Picard to Data, there's like a split second where... like, the communicator hears Data and then says to Data, Picard to Data, a second later.
Right.
And then puts them into a real-time conversation. That's the only way I can explain it to myself. But it literally doesn't make sense. And it's not consistent throughout the show how it works. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes they click their badges to receive calls, and sometimes they don't. It literally doesn't make sense.
It's like the transporters. You just wave your hand around it.
Yeah.
It becomes whatever you want.
Hey, Dan Marchetti, what's up, man? Welcome. Do you think that the transporters are killing you every time you transport?
Oof. How long is this podcast? Sorry, stream. It's not a podcast.
It's as long as we want, man.
Okay, I didn't know if you had another one after this.
I don't. It's just that.
Yeah, the transporter thing is really interesting because they're definitely killing you. I mean, there's no other, or it's space magic. I mean, if you want to go the science route, then they're burning your atoms down and then turning that into data and then pushing the data somewhere else.
Right.
It's
or is the energy that makes up your person actually the energy that moves, in which case you maybe aren't dying, you're just kind of transforming into energy and then being moved and then being reconstituted.
Right, the idea of
cloning or reassembling. Yeah, it's like The Prestige. Have you seen that movie?
Yes. Yeah.
I love that movie so much.
And they do. I mean, you get the whole Thomas Riker stuff. What
Right.
basically Star Trek has said, like, you know what, we can turn people into information, but we're not going to, like, do anything with it, like keep people immortal or heal people, except for every once in a while in an episode where we need to bring back a main character. But other than that, it's basically ignored technology.
Yeah.
It's almost like when Kirk discovered time travel twice within
in like the first season, right?
Yeah, and then they do nothing with it. Like, hey, maybe this should be all that the Federation does.
But then
is
literally,
focus on time travel.
Literally, Spock says that time travel is impossible years later in the movies.
Sure.
And
Even
then
though
they
he's
time
been
travel
there.
again.
Right.
It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is the deal with this?
So I feel like that was one of those things that in Enterprise, they turn it into like a trope of like, the Vulcan Commission of Science does not acknowledge... Like, they know that time travel is real,
Right.
and they know that time travel fucks up everything, and so they just are like, it doesn't... See, I have another theory that all of the stuff that the Enterprise does, they basically ruin space around Earth, and that's why all the stuff is weird. It's like, time is fucked in the Star Trek universe.
Right.
Because... they started fucking with time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they've created this garbage universe all around their Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Like, what if the Expanse is like a...
That's a future... That's like another next level of, like, if you keep fucking with time, you're gonna get weird bubbles in your space, too.
Yeah, totally. Although I think they explain the Expanse in season...
Probably. They have those big shifts.
3 of Enterprise, which I fucking love season 3 of Enterprise, by the way. It's so good. I love it.
We'll keep this going long enough, we'll do Enterprise.
That would be great. I would do every episode of every Star... I've seen every episode of every Star Trek at least once. Many of them like 5 to 10 times. Yeah, so I love Odo. I love what we get of him in this episode.
Yeah, he's the sheriff.
And he's the sheriff. Yeah, totally. I actually read something before we started.
It's a Western in space.
Oh, yeah, there's a time police entity from the future existing only to maintain the integrity of the timeline. Yeah, the temporal... What are they called? The
Time cops.
Temporal... In Enterprise, there's the... what is he called? He's like a temporal agent of some kind.
Yeah.
And there's also like the Intemporal Investigation Committee that you'll see in DS9.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Because they do a good...
Because they do some really good time travel episodes in this show. I think maybe the best time travel episode of any Star Trek is in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. Yep, agreed.
Yeah, totally.
I love how much we talk about the other future episodes, because it's hard not to.
Yeah, but those are like light spoilers. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I think most people who are here have watched the show, but I do want people to watch the show with us. You know, if you haven't seen the show before, I want you to feel comfortable.
And if you've seen it before, you can get a refresher when we start to do the, like, you know, this is weird that they did it this way.
They just don't care about the Abrams-verse timeline. Yeah, the temporal police don't exist in that timeline. Although that, I mean, that
or
timeline...
is that all they're dealing with right now? Is like, Jesus, this Kelvin thing is a fucking nightmare. All hands on deck.
I think the Kelvin timeline, in my mind, it exists separately from the main timeline. Like, they both exist. Where when Nero goes back, he creates a new timeline, but the other one continues to exist.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
It's just like the
it
mirror
doesn't, like,
universe.
overwrite the other one.
I personally believe the mirror universe is basically an alternate timeline that someone had created at some point in time in the Star Trek universe, and that just keeps running along. You
Sure,
know?
yeah, and if you look at like the episode Parallels with Worf in season 7 of TNG, where he starts to go through all these different parallel quantum realities, maybe all these different timelines are just different quantum realities, and the mirror universe is just another one of those. But you can create a new one through a massively irresponsible act of time travel. So maybe like the original Star Trek timeline keeps being fractured by all of these different time travel events. So the timeline we're watching now is like the 1000th iteration of this, because every timeline is slightly different, and maybe some timelines cease to exist and others continue, and all sorts of crazy shit. Who knows?
Maybe TOS and TNG don't quite take place in the same timeline, and that's why the technology is different?
Yeah, totally. But what I like to think is that the version of the characters that we are introduced to is the version that we watch throughout the course of these series.
Yeah, sure.
So, like, Captain Picard, by the end of Nemesis, is the same man as you know, the first episode.
Right.
But the timeline that they've gone through maybe has, like, splintered off into several new ones. So maybe they're not even in the same timeline anymore, but it's still the same man. That's just my own internal logic.
This is down here, mycelial network. That's...
Yeah, and I will say that I'm not necessarily a type of viewer that needs to nitpick. Which
I
sounds
don't-
insane after the conversation we've just been
I
having.
don't need to, but
but
it
it's
is
fun.
my calling.
It's fun, but none of these things necessarily bother
Oh,
me.
me neither. It's fun to take it apart and look at it.
It's fun. It is fun. Like the communicator thing doesn't bother me. The mycelial network thing does bother me because retconning bothers me. I think like take what you've made and expand upon it. If you can find a way to retcon something perfectly, it can be really effective, but it's next to impossible. And Discovery, in my opinion, did a terrible job of that. And I think that even
Can't wait till we get to Discovery.
yeah.
I'm gonna bring it up every episode.
Oh god. even DS9 has some retconning issues. That thing we were talking about in season 7.
Trills.
Yeah.
Oh, we look different now. Why? Because that lady's really hot, and we didn't want to have her face all fucked up.
Yeah, there's like
Oh,
a different
okay,
version
that's
of Trills
legit.
in TNG, and they actually, I think that there is internal logic to this, that there are like different continents and that there are different
Yeah,
ways that Trills
you
look.
can wave it away, explain it.
Yeah,
you
the
know.
the Kelvin timeline Klingons look different, and the new show they look even more different.
Mhm. And TOS, they look more different, which
Yeah.
gets a back ass explained through
Enterprise.
right, which doesn't explain Kane and Kodo and Koss who show up later, but whatevs.
But
you
it
know?
really doesn't. I mean,
We're all super cash around here.
we didn't need the explanation in Enterprise, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
But we really didn't need them to look different 5 years earlier on Discovery, or 10 years earlier on Discovery. And I maintain that the only reason they changed the look of the Klingons in Discovery is
to make
because
people mad.
they wanted to have a secret reveal of a Klingon being a human, so they had to make the makeup like more obscure. To like obscure someone's face.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's the only reason.
Yeah, that's
Random direction question, waste and trash, replicated items and food, dissolve or shoot into space. I think that everyone's poop is dematerialized into nothingness.
You are eating poop in space.
I actually think that they dematerialize your poop into the energy that is then used in the replicators to make your dinner.
Yeah, it's a self-contained system.
Yeah.
That's why Voyager can last for like 70 years out in space with nothing.
Because-
it's just going to pick up a little bit more juice for the engines.
That show makes no sense.
Second best Star Trek,
No way.
tied with TNG
Definitely
and
not.
DS9.
No, behind all of them.
Tied for second.
I think so. We know that
90s Star
in the Star Trek universe, matter and energy are interchangeable. So I think that poop becomes energy and then becomes food. Yeah, tea, Earl Grey, hot.
P. Earl Grey.
P. Earl Grey, hot. Do you want to take 5? I got to pee.
Sure, yeah, let's take 5.
I want to get some water.
Oof. Does that mean are we done though? Because we take 5. Who's going to hang around to watch it? Like,
You know what? Doesn't matter. We got so much more to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, and I take 5 from streams often.
oh, you do?
People
This
are
is new to
still
me.
there.
I'm a podcast person.
Yeah. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
I'm gonna leave you with this, and let's see. Maybe I'll put up. Well, I'll just leave you with this for.
Just stare at this.
I don't know. Should I leave you with that? Should I leave you with this with the AFK screen?
I would leave the space thing.
Okay. Let me add my AFK screen.
Okay.
I forgot to put that here. Boom. I haven't updated this.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, this is what I put on the screen whenever I take a break, so
Yeah.
people know what's up. Okay, we will be back in just a couple of minutes. I'm gonna pee. I'm turning off our camera, which happens like that.
Oh!
Now it's just space, and now I'm turning off the microphone, and we'll see you in just a minute.
No one can hear me talking. No one can hear me smoking pot.
Okay. We're back. Let me do this.
Goodbye, pause screen.
And let me do this. There we go.
Back to space.
We back.
We're back.
Thank you, Dan and Amanda.
Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. That was a good break.
That was a good break.
That was a really nice break. How was your break, everyone else? I got more tea.
Yeah.
I
smoked a cigarette.
We took a breather.
And we talked about
Deep Space Nine. We were seriously like standing outside talking about Deep Space Nine. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Save it for the stream.
But we can't help it. We literally can't help it. Okay, we talked a little bit about. Well, we talked about Odo, but we didn't really talk about Quark that much.
Yeah, we're jumping to character, which is a good focus. Yeah, Quark.
Wait, you're fighting with Amazon. Is that about the thing you sent? Or is it about getting your refund? Because I can call them too, if that's a problem. Amanda sent me Wind Waker off my wish list.
Oh.
And it went to the wrong address, and like we couldn't get it redirected, so we had to reorder it. And they said they were sending her a refund. I just want to make sure she gets it. No, that's what it's about. No, okay. Well, DM me. Tell me what's going on, and I'll give them a call after the stream.
Twisting some goddamn arms.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, okay. Let's talk about Quark because I think that
they don't do much with him this time.
Yeah.
He's the scoundrel with maybe a heart of gold and also grabby hands on ladies' hips.
Grabby hands.
Yeah, he's a little handsy.
Oh my god, I just remembered something. Look what's in my pocket.
Oh.
In case you didn't have enough of a breather before. Yeah, so I was reading a little bit on the memory...
Space joint. I love it.
Space joint.
Yeah,
it is exactly what that is. I was reading a little bit on Memory Alpha before the stream about how the producers wanted to create a Western version of Star Trek.
Oh, yes, yep.
And how they needed, like, the sheriff, they needed the barkeep, and, like, you know, everyone comes to you instead of going out everywhere else. Always trying to get the Umaks, totally. Horny bastards. So he is like the traditional barkeep, you know, and Odo is like the sheriff, the constable. But I really, really like Quark. I've always really liked Quark. He's like a despicable character that's really fun to like. And for me, the most interesting thing about Quark is the way that they developed the Ferengi over the course of this show. Because if you go back through Star Trek, traditionally, Ferengi have just been a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, on Next Generation is where they were debuted.
Right.
Really early on in the series as a total, like, misstep.
Yeah.
As far as trying to make, like, a new... threatening species, they totally missed the boat. But it's crazy to me that, like, after everything that happened on TNG with Ferengi, that they would decide to make a main character a Ferengi.
Right.
Crazy for several reasons.
We spent all this money on these goddamn rubber masks.
Yeah, totally.
I believe even the guy, what's his name that plays
Armin Shimmerman.
Yeah, he's one of the
he is.
first Ferengi. So they're like,
that's true.
Listen, he's got the thing. Well, you know, this is going to be cheaper.
Do you remember that episode where where Loxana Troy is coming on board and there's going to be a wedding and there's a box with jewels inside of it and there's a face?
Yeah.
It says, "The day of joy is at hand."
Yes,
that's Armin Shimmerman.
Ah, that's great.
Quark. Yeah. They're laser whips. I know. Everyone complains. I thought the laser whips were fucking rad.
And I liked those. This scene in the first one where it's the
oh yeah. Yeah, he's like all up in the thing. Totally. That's the best impression.
that's how Ferengi is introduced.
He's in like a pure white room. He's like in the wormhole with the prophets. That's exactly what it looks like. Just because they couldn't build a set.
Yeah.
Anyway, and like the makeup involved in Ferengi, they have a whole family of Ferengi in every episode.
They do a deep dive with the Ferengi, which is interesting.
And they do, yeah.
It's a fucked up dive because it's a fucked up society.
Yeah.
But it is interesting.
I've always heard...
and they only hint at any more of it now. Now it's just straight up, here's Quark, he's kind of a dick, but we're going to have him run the bar.
Even in this episode, we've never seen Ferengi care about each other, ever.
Right.
We've never seen a Ferengi family that liked each other enough to try to do something to stay together.
Yeah.
Like, we've only seen Ferengi be power-hungry and horny. That's literally...
Yeah.
Oh, and greedy. That's all we've ever seen.
But that's super Star Trek, too, is that basically one of the things that you have to accept in the show is, like, all Cardassians are bad, because otherwise, why not hire a fucking Cardassian computer dude to work with Miles? No, instead it's like Miles going, God, I can't figure out how any of this shit works.
Yeah.
Too bad all Cardassians are evil, otherwise we could get one in here to help us figure this shit out.
I think this show tries to start with those tropes and then unravel them over time, which is why I like this show so much.
In the speciest way,
they do that with Cardassians and with
humanize
Ferengi. them. Sure, that's very speciesist. What are you going to do? Yeah, so
they flesh them out. They add dimension. They try again. It's like it's adding shades to the tone of Star Trek, but also in a detailed level to the species and the aliens that they've created.
Totally. And I actually, I mean, I don't like all of what they do with the Ferengi, but I do like how they, evolve the species. In a couple of ways, very specifically, I actually really love it. Like the whole idea of the great material continuum, which comes up way later, which kind of explains the sort of religious beliefs of the Ferengi around capitalism and why they're so obsessed with, you know, with wealth. It kind of goes back to some of their more spiritual beliefs, and in ways that are like something that you could see from the outside maybe and respecting. And I love that they take the most mocked species and make them kind of more respectable. Yeah. Throughout the course of the show.
It'll be fun to talk about some of the Ferengi episodes.
Yeah, for sure. Nice Cisco versus mean Cisco. Interesting. It seems he's uncharacteristically short-tempered with people if the script calls for it, but only then. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that he is someone he basically doesn't, he don't truck no bullshit. You know what I mean? He's a serious-minded person, and I think that it can come across as mean, but it's not that he is mean, you know? It's just like he's kind of shitty to Kira when he first meets her, but he's doing it in a jovial way because...
Well, she's being shitty.
She starts it off, right. He's matching her energy in that point.
Yeah. I've never thought about that. I've always felt like he just had a shorter temper than Picard or any of the other captains, really.
Right.
But I've never felt like he... Well, I guess short-tempered is the wrong word. I felt like his angry level is louder. I think that he's actually very in control, usually.
He's passionate.
But then he's not... Okay, I'm going to keep an eye out for that, Dan. I'm going to keep an eye out for that this time, because I haven't noticed that. He says he usually has patience, but then he doesn't. He's not consistent. He's not consistent,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Unsurprising.
Yeah. I'm going to pay attention to that.
Characters are wildly inconsistent.
Yeah. We haven't talked about the other Starfleet people that come aboard.
Are we good with Quark, though? Like, basically he shows up, and then they blackmail him into being a businessman, and he says...
I mean, he's pretty one-dimensional in this episode.
So far, yeah. There's more with him later, but...
Yeah, for sure. I would love to talk about Dr. Bashir, because I love his, like, wide-eyed enthusiasm in this episode. He's just, like... such an idiot.
Yes.
But he's like a brilliant idiot. You know, he's super smart, but he has no idea how the world works. He just thinks everything's great. He's going to be a hero in this, like, Old West adventure out in space that he thinks he's going on. But he has no idea that he's going to, like, get caught up in, you know, very serious shit and deal with life and death in a way that he's not prepared for throughout the course of the show. And I love him at first. At the beginning of the show, he's one of, if not my favorite character.
Interesting.
But by the end of the show, he's definitely... I still like him, but I kind of fall out of love with the character.
Interesting. I go the opposite. I don't like him at all.
Oh, really?
Until later on, and then I think they really settle into the way to do him, which is this, like, casual, cocky arrogance. And I like it. Now I don't like him because, well, he's kind of creepy. It's only a little bit here, but he gets really persistent when trying to pursue Lieutenant Belly Monster, and that starts to get a little gross. Where here he's just awkwardly, also weirdly, just like asking her out straight up in front of other people.
That was such an awkward moment.
Like, do you not know how to deal?
Yeah, like the moment they walk off the shuttle onto Deep Space Nine,
whoa,
he asks her out.
You're pretty. Do you want to go get dinner?
And she says yes. And he's like, oh my god.
Yeah, but she says yes in a way like, I'm gonna put this dude in the friend zone right away.
Yeah, but then you get into that fascinating discussion about the fact that she is, like, to Cisco, an old man.
Yes,
like quite literally.
I do. Dax's character is one that I do enjoy because
I love Dax.
I think they're fairly consistent with her, or the inconsistency can always be explained as, well, it's like 7 different people. But I like the kind of like lust for life aspect that they give to Dax, and that none of that is evident here now. Yeah. Now she's just kind of like hyper competent and like wide eyed, like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Especially for someone who's lived so many lives, to still have a lust for life, I think is really powerful from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love her introduction in this episode. I adore her relationship with Captain Sisko.
Yeah.
Well, Commander at this point, Sisko. It's one of my favorite relationships in the show, like that core pairing of them.
Yeah.
I love the first time he calls her old man. Yeah. I mean, if you haven't watched the show, basically she has this worm in her belly, a symbiont that they call it, a worm that is a sentient creature that needs a human-looking creature to exist inside of to live.
Right.
And their species just evolved together, the Trill. They're a joined species. So both creatures are the Trill, you know,
Right.
The humanoid woman and this worm creature,
Right.
and the memories of all the people that the worm creature has lived inside of stay inside of that worm as it goes from host to host. So the new host will have their own memories and then memories of all these other lifetimes.
Right.
It's very Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's very regeneration in Doctor Who.
Yeah, and it's kind of the general gist of it is that the monster is basically experiencing the new lives that it's being lived with, but that the host, is the one that has the free will and has the control, basically, of choice, infused with the memories and thoughts of the previous lives.
Yeah. And just seeing it in this, like, young woman that she has age in a way that is unusual.
Right. Wisdom and intelligence.
Through the performance, I think is really fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I think that every moment that Jadzia Dax is on screen is, like, amazing to me. Because that character is so well realized. And something that's so fantastical. Like, what if a young woman could have the memories of, like, 7 or whatever other lifetimes? You know, what would that be?
Yeah.
And that's another thing I love about Deep Space Nine is that it takes these huge things. Like, what if this creature's gods actually lived above their planet? You know? What if you could talk to a creature that didn't have any concept of time?
Right.
What if you could change your body into any shape? Or, like, what if you just appeared from nowhere and had no idea where you were from in the galaxy, but then all of a sudden a portal to another place opens right there? I mean, all these big what-ifs that are so interesting that get examined over the course of the show.
What if your entire existence was created to suffer?
That's Miles O'Brien for sure. But yeah, I think Dax is one of those big ones. Oh man, Dan, I love that. Benny. Yeah, we'll get to that eventually, but that shit, I love that shit.
Yes.
Oh, Latoya says DS9 had the best crew when it came to not everyone being human.
Yes.
I agree, yeah. Seeing the interaction of different aliens and different species is really, I think, at the core of Star Trek. And this one did a really good job of setting up a lot of that.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so I mean, I love Dax in this episode. I love that there's this like 10 millennia old mystery of where's the Celestial Temple, and she solves it in like an afternoon.
Yeah, 2 hours to get the computer to make a database, and then
it would have been faster if the computer was faster.
Yeah, right. Stupid Cardi computer.
Yeah, but that is the one moment in this episode where my logic. One of the moments where my logic button was being pushed in an unsettling way. I was like,
over that.
I was like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, she basically just cross-references all the mentions of the Celestial Temple with each other, and then
put it
finds
on a map, and then it's like, oh, it's right there, and they fly out, and then they find. And also, they fly out in a way that doesn't make it seem like it's a real long ways away. They just go there, you know.
It seems really close.
Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't quite make sense. I think the way they try to explain it is that unless you were directly scanning that one place, you wouldn't see it.
But then they also show that when you get near it, it opens.
Right.
So
yeah, but that explanation doesn't quite hold water because, like, if you think about a planet that has spacefaring technology and has the type of sensors that you see in Star Trek, they're scanning everything around them all the time. They could scan that entire sector from the planet.
There's all kinds of stuff as we go on further that it'll be like, oh yeah, nothing that they do with the wormhole makes any sense at all.
Right.
Right now, in this episode, the first thing that doesn't make any sense is they're like, yeah, you know, this is kind of a backwater, but this is important. We need Federation presence here. We're not going to give any guns or anything, but good luck. And then they leave, and they're like, oh shit, you guys almost got blown out of the sky by 3 Kardashian warships.
Yeah, immediately.
We're still not going to give you any guns or anything, but now you are super important, you know?
Yeah, you put Deep Space Nine on the map, Commando.
You still get no more funding.
Yeah. I just thought of something.
Yes.
So we know from a future episode, this is a light spoiler, that Bajorans were a spacefaring people long before humans were. And that there is a possibility that Bajorans have fallen through the Celestial Temple before. But what if, or run into it before? I mean, there's like, you know, we see that in the first episode. Dax has all these mentions of this, maybe seeing the Celestial Temple, or like where the orbs might have come from. I think she was like triangulating that.
Any kind of weird shit that happened.
And I assume that she was like looking at historic accounts of maybe people seeing something that might be the Celestial Temple. I don't know if that was mentioned or not, but that's what I assume.
Yeah.
But what if the people who'd seen it in the past, who were Bajoran, assume that it's the Celestial Temple and don't even think that it's a wormhole? Like, what if they think that they're just seeing the portal to the gods, and because of that, maybe they don't want to examine it further because they think that they shouldn't because they have this like religious fear of it.
Yeah,
I'm reaching very far right now to try to explain why they haven't discovered this wormhole.
Well, that's the thing that's tough about it, is that you have this group of people who have a religion based around this thing that is literally on their back doorstep in space. They have ships, they can get there, they know that other people have seen it, but like you have to believe that like nobody investigated further, nobody went back that experienced it, It
doesn't
but it's fine.
sense.
It's a minor thing. It's just on the spectrum of stuff. I put that like, the mycelial network is weirder than that, but it's definitely like a big like. Just wave your hand over it and accept it.
I think that if I had written it, I would have just had it open. I would have had the wormhole open with the arrival of Sisko because he's the emissary, and then you could further that connection, that there's something connecting Sisko to the wormhole aliens.
I half agree with you,
and that the emissary means something specific. I think I just have it like pop open all of a sudden.
Right?
Why not?
Yeah, I was gonna say don't have it open now. Have it have been closed and have it been like, it's been like 3,000 years or whatever.
Sure.
So it is now like, we knew that it was there, but no one's been able to use it.
Yeah, and maybe they think of it like Old Faithful, but it's not faithful anymore.
Right.
Like it's maybe they thought it was a naturally occurring wormhole and it hasn't opened in 9,000 years or whatever.
Right.
But then they discovered that it maybe isn't natural and maybe is built by these creatures who live inside of it, and still like everything else about the episode can stay the same.
Absolutely, and Sisko being there is what activates it again.
Yeah.
That's
hey,
it.
Ryan, welcome.
Like Ryan Casey, I say this all the time too, is that writing is magic. You can just like, if you need to explain something, it shouldn't take you more than a couple of sentences to make it make sense.
Dan says the wormhole aliens exist out of time, so they may have appeared in order to draw Sisko there at the right time. But it's really Dax that draws them there. Like Dax's research. Well, I don't know. We have to back up a little bit here because it's mostly the Kai asking to see Sisko, telling him he's the emissary, and then telling him to find the Celestial Temple. Like that's what. Well, that's why they go to look for it.
Does she tell him you're the emissary and you have to find the Celestial Temple? I think
she says, "Funny that one, so something should be the emissary." She does call him the emissary to his face.
Yeah. But I think he just goes to look for the Celestial Temple because he needs Kai to unite the Bajorans so it doesn't go into civil war.
I think my understanding was that they were looking for the Celestial Temple because they knew the Cardassians were looking for it, and they needed Bajor to stake a claim to it because it would be catastrophic for
they didn't know what the orbs do. They're like, here's the orbs, they've got these, and they're like, the Cardassians are working on them right now. To what end? We don't... That's another one where they're just kind of like, hey, we need to find this thing.
Yeah, that was a little sloppy also. The whole idea that there's this like race to the Celestial Temple in the middle of the episode where the Cardassians are looking for it too.
Right.
That felt a little sloppy also. I felt like they had this huge idea. There was a great idea of like, this episode's going to revolve around them finding the wormhole and moving the station next to the wormhole.
Right.
And discovering the wormhole aliens and having this like spiritual connection with Sisko. Like that stuff all for me like really resonated like through and through, and I think that some of the explanations that they came up with to get people to that moment, that they knew was what they needed to do, didn't make sense.
Yeah, it's
like,
kind of
very thin.
Yeah, you just have to accept it. You're like, okay, don't look under the curtain too hard.
But I think that that's actually pretty common for Deep Space Nine. I think that the writing room on this show is more focused on the big moments, and I think a lot of the smaller things. They just found the first thing they could think of that made sense and went with it.
Right.
And it almost always makes sense.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't like seem possible, it at least makes sense.
Right. It's why the stuff about them not giving them any better military support always kind of rubs me the wrong way, because that does seem like they want to keep, the writers are keeping the station in peril for dramatic effect in the future, when then they do eventually ramp up a war and then, give them more stuff, but it's weird out of the gate now that it's just like, it's just like a way station that people come to.
Yeah.
Even though it's hugely important.
I think that...
I think Starfleet is just run poorly.
I was thinking about it this time, like the idea that... I think that there was a lot of pushback against the idea that this is the first Star Trek that's not moving through space. This is the first one that's like still. And I think a lot of people were turned off by that who were Trek fans. I know I was at the time because I was a kid. So I think it's really... interesting that they start the episode not only with like, we're not going anywhere, but this place is a piece of shit, and it is like the backwoods of the universe. And then by the end of the episode, it's not anymore. It's, you know, it's going to become a huge hub of commerce and travel, because we now have an instant point of contact between the Alpha Quadrant and the Gamma Quadrant. Right. Which again is such a cool idea, that you discover a stable way to travel further than you ever traveled before, and you don't understand it, but you're allowed to use it. Like, and there's someone that presides over it that is on this other plane of existence. Like, that's all so cool. And you could, I mean, that is such a fertile story that you could tell that story for years, and they do quite effectively. But where was I going with this? I got totally lost. I got distracted. That's the bad part about live chat, is sometimes I'll like read something as I'm talking and get distracted. The
general idea is that they do some lazy explanations with the wormhole, its existence.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes. So in the first episode, there's an arc to Deep Space Nine becoming an interesting place to be. And I actually wonder if they lost people at first, because they're like, I don't want to watch a Star Trek that's not, you know, action oriented or like not moving from place to place. And then they start watching the episode and bail halfway through because it doesn't appeal to them, because it's like not just not traveling through space, but they're in a shitty part of space. So if you're looking for interesting stuff in space, it's not going to appeal to you until the end of the episode. I think that anyone who watched it all the way through would hopefully be turned on by the idea of, you know, turned on is a weird way to say it, but excited by the idea of being on Deep Space Nine when all these cool things are going to happen, because I know for me it definitely sets it up that way. Yeah. But I think the arc of the first episode as a whole is a long journey to becoming an interesting show. Yes. Where it kind of says, like, this isn't interesting, and it kind of sucks, and Sisko doesn't even want to be here. Right. But by the end of the episode, like, he has this sort of cosmic mission to uncover there, which I think is awesome. Yeah, it's why you have Oh my god, look at that question that Dan just asked. You are opening a can of worms, sir. Do you think DS9 ripped off Babylon 5, even if just at first? So a little backstory here. Doug and I actually recorded podcasts about every season of Babylon 5 for my show, Sci-Fi with Jesse Mercury. The last episode of which hasn't even come out yet, of us talking about the season 5 of Babylon 5. But we talked about this so much when we talked about Babylon 5. The fact that there's this whole backstory of, like, did Babylon 5, did DS9 rip off Babylon 5? Because, like, J. Michael Straczynski, the writer of B5, had submitted a spec script to Paramount, who made Deep Space Nine, and they came out at the same time. So,
and his show was about a space station, with people living on it, and
there was a jump gate where, like, right next to the station,
next to the thing, so
and then everyone came to
one of the main characters is sort of like a religious figure to these aliens, and
it's very similar.
There's two people named Ducat.
That's true. Yeah. Hey, Fluttershy, what's up? So, and I just opened a can of wormhole aliens.
My thought is, even if they did straight up rip it off, it's like, do you rip off the idea of having, like, a group of people traveling through space and meeting aliens? It's such a basic premise, you know? It's what you do with it makes a difference, you know?
I think that Babylon 5 ripped off the concept of Star Trek in its very existence in a lot of ways. Well, I think doing a show in space with a crew is impossible to do without ripping off Star Trek, because Star Trek was the one that caught on. You know, there was other shows that did it. There's Lost in Space. There's what's it called? Battlestar Galactica, the old show, which kind of ripped off Star Wars. But I don't know. I mean, you have Star Wars and you have Star Trek. You have kind of like the rollicking space adventure, and you have the more militarized version, Space 1999. Thank you, Justin. The more militarized version of space travel, and Star Trek was the one that got the militarized version first. So everything else kind of has to reference it. I think that there are so many similarities on the surface between B5 and Deep Space Nine. I think there is some suspicious stuff that happened there that maybe some of JMS's ideas ended up making their way into DS9.
Well, who cares? They're just ideas.
But that's the thing, yeah. I mean, like Doug said, it's what you do with it that matters. And I think that what those two shows did with it is so wildly different that none of those similarities become anything more than superficial, and to me are kind of not important.
Two shows about malls in space could not be more different.
Yeah, the promenade and the Zocalo. You're changing everything for me, Doug. You're changing it all.
I love shows about space malls.
Space malls. We should just make a show called Space
Malls.
It would look exactly like this, except it's just us sitting at a mall.
Yeah.
And there's just weird creatures walking by us and we're talking. It's very cheap.
See, Babylon 5 made the mistake of never going into the lives of the people who ran shops in Space Mall.
Right.
Deep Space Nine
Someone
is
mentioned
like...
Garrick earlier in the chat, and
Yeah.
I forgot to come back to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, Garrick comes later. Well, yeah, because that's what I was going to say. Is like they go into Garrick, the tailor.
The tailor, yeah.
Yeah, we already have
Again,
Quark
one of my favorite characters.
and also very Western. You know what I mean?
very
Like
Western,
that's I think that's not a typical space show trope of like, oh, the dude who makes clothes.
Yeah. Garrick is a
In an age with
fascinating character
replicators,
to me.
sure, why not?
Totally. I think he's the... Well, and Quark is a shop owner, too.
Yeah.
And there's a horrible episode in season 1 where you go into the behind the scenes of running Quarks and, like, competition coming up, and it's terrible, but...
There's a lot of horrible episodes in season
Yeah,
one.
there's a fair amount. I mean, hey, Andy's back. How's your bike ride?
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hello. I want my spot.
Yeah, get in here.
Get on there.
Thank
Andy's
you.
back.
Oh.
I need a larger green screen is the problem. We can't all quite...
No, you need to. Yeah, you
in
need
here.
to zoom in on the.
Yeah, Garrick is amazing. I'm excited to go episode by episode and claim our favorite characters because I think that Garrick, Dax, Cisco, Odo, and Quark, and O'Brien, and Kira all have a chance of being my favorite character. You know?
Did you just list
Did
all
I
the
miss
characters?
Did I miss
Pretty much
anybody?
everybody.
And I gotta say, Gul Dukat is actually an amazing.
Yeah.
Mike, I will check my Discord. I think you mean. Yeah, I'll check that after for sure.
The
I haven't
Wire
seen
was
The Wire.
so good. It is good.
Huh.
I like it. The Wire in space.
Oh, SSJ, welcome, man. Thank you. I'm very excited about this layout, you guys. I built this yesterday.
It's pretty
I'm
cool.
very
And
excited
I actually
about it.
think we're all...
Yeah,
we all kinda pretty fit. good.
If I get my head over this way a little bit, then there we go.
We're
Check my
perfect.
Discord right now.
just hold that for
I
an hour.
cannot concentrate on that many things at once.
It's hard 'cause it's out of angle.
I am curious, though. I'm going to do it. I'm checking my Discord. I don't like checking my Discord during streams, but sometimes I'll do it.
Oh.
That was definitely not worth it. That is very strange.
What is that? I don't even know.
Well, back to the stream.
Check your Discord. Check your Discord. Never check your Discord.
Ah.
Yeah, never check the Discord. It's not worth it. Never do it. Whenever someone tells you during a stream to check the Discord, I am going to just say no because
That's a
unless
flat-out
it's something
rule.
that I have asked for to send to me on Discord, I'm going to say no.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I mean, just by talking about the characters, we've broken down most of the episode, but there's a few things that I want to talk about.
Sure.
We got to talk about Kai Opaka approaching Cisco and the way that happens, where you have this interesting religious figure that we know to be called Vedics from I saw the funny, but this is not the time. The guy like approaches Cisco and said, "It is time to like go see Kai Opaka."
Yeah.
It seems like they just know that that something about Cisco is like connected to something about their religion. It's like very nebulous what's happening.
That is
Yeah.
that was really confusing. To
I
me.
like to imagine anytime somebody shows up, they're like, "You have to touch this orb. Now it's time." And they're like, "Oh, well, that didn't go anywhere."
Yeah, but
Maybe this guy.
Maybe it's him.
this also applies to my feeling that this show is very intuitive with its storytelling, because when you introduce a religious figure and their reasons are nebulous, you kind of buy it as an audience member. You kind of go along with it at least.
Right. Well, that's religion. You're just
Yeah.
like, okay.
And yeah, I mean with Deep
that's
Space Nine,
interesting.
they explain all of it. You know, they get into it all of it in like excruciating detail that I
Right.
really like.
Yeah, because now it's called Emissary, and Kai Opaka said like, oh, when you're touching his, squeezing your ear, you're the emissary, even though you're kind of a grumpus. But they don't. It's only in the later ones where they're like, oh no, he's like a religious figure that they worship, and you know,
Right.
like Kira is viewing him as like you're kind of like a Moses type person or whatever.
Yeah, and that'll all happen like
That'll
very
happen later.
soon. Like the whole idea of that is presented like within
Yeah.
I think like the next episode.
Yeah, this is all just the setup for it. You know?
Yeah,
Awesome.
basically. But I adore Kai Opaka.
I'm gonna keep participating. I'm just gonna. Say.
Okay. I think Kai Opaka is a fantastic character. I think that actress is a brilliant choice. I think she embodies the whole
Oh, did I move too far? No, we're good.
She like embodies the wisdom that character needs.
Yes.
Because we'll meet other Kais throughout the show, and they're so different.
Yep.
But yeah, Kai Opaka is by far my favorite Kai. For some reason, I feel like she's straight out of Sister Act. I know that actress was not in Sister Act.
She feels very nice.
But I expect her to start going, like, I will follow him, like any second, you know? Like,
she
just
comes
looks
across
like
as a
that.
singing nun.
Yes, she does. I love her, and I love...
Isn't she a religious figure?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And she looks like she's in a habit, you know?
Space nun.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Nun.
Actually, Dan is now a moderator. Boom. We need someone, and Dan is a brilliant choice.
Nice.
Yeah. And if you don't know Dan, he's another game streamer. He has the world record for getting the most amount of moons in Super Mario Odyssey without getting hit.
Yeah,
Wow.
Dan, I heard that you beat your own world record recently. Congratulations.
Yeah, he beat his he beat his own world record by like 140 moons or something
Jesus
in like a 13-hour stream.
Oof.
I watched for a couple hours in the middle. It was very exciting. It was very cool. Yeah, he smashed his own record. It was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know. I really like the Bajoran religion in this show as a whole.
Yeah. This is another area where Deep Space Nine, as a show, does a deeper
Does a really good
exploration of
job.
something that was introduced in TNG.
Right. And, you know, at the beginning of the episode, there's, like, the first captain's log that Cisco makes when they're getting to DS9 in the very beginning of the show. The thing that he says, like, the Cardassians have finally left Bajor after the occupation, whatever it is like a captain's log you'd hear in any episode of Next Generation that would be just about that episode. Like, this political situation is happening
Right.
here, and it only matters for this episode.
Here's some exposition and a light flavoring.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden, like, that one captain's log resonates across the entire show.
Yeah.
Because they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Because they're staying put in this one place over this planet, and the political situation on the planet is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think that it took them a little while to... They kind of had to explain it over and over before it kind of sunk in for me, like,
Again,
what was actually happening.
Well, and it's the nature of them doing it episodic.
Episodic, yeah.
A serialized thing, they wouldn't explain it over and over. They would explain it slowly over a long period of time.
Right.
And then if you went back, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I know this. And it makes sense as it goes.
Right.
But with episodic, it's like, oh, by the way, the Cardassians occupied this place for 50 years, and I've been fighting for all this time, and
Right.
this is an important you know, they just have to keep restating the premise.
That continues to be true for Major Kira, that
Yeah.
she, like, fought that for her whole
They
lifetime.
do ease off it a little bit. That's interesting. Another analogy of Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 is that Babylon 5 starts off very episodic with the intention of becoming a fully serialized thing, and Deep Space Nine kind of backs into it where they're like, we're doing episodic, but boy, this is just not going to work. We have to start to move towards a more serialized show.
Right. And they also, I think in the first couple seasons, they're more serializing the premise
Right.
than the story.
Yeah.
And then I think they start to serialize the story.
Yeah.
But even just serializing the premise is interesting to me in
Yes.
a Star Trek show because
Because before it's just been the characters are the only things that are, you know, the ship and then the people on it, and then there's no real through line. They're just bouncing around to different shit.
Yeah. Hi, Scarlett. That's very funny to me. Sometimes in sci-fi streams, people come in and start talking about Mario Maker, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, we're not playing Mario Maker right now. Hello, Scarlett. Welcome.
I can talk about Mario Maker. Ask me any question. It's a program you use to make Mario levels.
We've played
There
it
you
together
go.
before.
We have.
Yeah.
It's real hard.
Long before I started streaming, I think. For like one day, we just I don't remember why, but we ended up playing.
We're doing a podcast.
I think we did a podcast, and then we're like, let's play Mario Maker.
Yeah. I played a level you made, or a level you had.
Yeah, it was a level. I think I made you play a level I made.
Yeah. His levels are.
And then watch and laugh, which is now what everyone else does to me.
Yeah, the same payback.
Yeah, totally. But I get why people do that.
Sure.
Like, anyway.
Super Mario for me. Once you get like the feather and fire, I'm like, this game's done. It's too complicated. Forget it. It's not just like
Dude,
jumping and bouncing.
You should see some Kaizo levels. It's beyond complicated.
I did play some Mario Odyssey. Or is that on the Switch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you get to throw the hat with eyes at people.
Yeah. What'd you think?
It was fun. We did a 2-player version.
Yeah, we did that a little too.
Where I got to play the hat, and it's great. Because the hat, you're like an indestructible, sentient monster.
You're like Odo.
Yeah, and then the other person can be like, try to throw you when it wants to.
Yeah.
But you're
I
kind
was
of...
always the hat.
What do we think about the theory that maybe Cappy is a changeling?
Well, it's like a ghost hat, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
like the ghost of a dead hat that could possess other hats.
All right, I think you're right. Ghost
Well
hat.
put.
Was that enough Mario talk for you?
Yeah, there you go, Scarlett. What was okay? So then I think we've talked a lot about being inside the wormhole. Mm-hmm. That whole part of the show though is so interesting. Hey Nico, what's up? Thanks for coming. That whole part of the show is so interesting because you have Kira and O'Brien trying to keep the station together and trying to like move the station to protect the wormhole to stake that claim. Mm-hmm. As much as that almost makes sense, I'm still on board with it. Like I love the idea of trying to move the space station too. I think that's a really cool thing to do in the first episode. Like showing it's like, well, all these people who said they don't want to be on a show where they're on a space station that can't go anywhere. Fuck you! It can go to the wormhole. You know, like it can go like a light year, and they can make it lighter somehow and move it super quick. That barely makes sense.
Space magic. You make a force field bubble around it. Now you just fly through space.
Yeah, but I really enjoy all that, and I think that if you're looking at who saves the day in this episode, I think that it's arguable that it's Kira because I think the obvious answer is Benjamin Sisko because he kind of parlays with the wormhole aliens.
He has super Deus Machina.
Yeah,
out of them.
He comes out with like towing the Cardassian ship.
It's all cool. It all happened off screen. I was laying down in a puddle of milk for a while, and now this.
I was on a very hard shelf of milk, and I could stand on it for some reason.
Over my dead wife, and I caught this asshole.
But yeah, I mean, he is the Deus Ex Machina at the end of the episode where he comes to save the day. But I think without Kira being in command and keeping the whole thing together, the space station blows up before they get there because the Cardassians destroy it.
She had to trick the Cardassian into not blowing them up right away.
Yeah, she like bluffed how many like torpedoes they have and shit with all the new Starfleet stuff.
Yeah.
But the guy who successfully, right? Because the sensors on the other ship were red.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the one guy's like, no, it's definitely fake. And then his other friend is like, yeah, but maybe not.
Yeah.
If it's not,
but dude, the guy who played the commander of the Cardassian vessel was so delightfully over the top.
Oh yeah.
He's just like, how can you have that many weapons?
Well, you have to chew the scenery as a Cardassian.
Yeah.
You know, we'll get to it later, but they do one where it's like an understated Cardassian, and it's really well done.
Huh.
Is that are you talking about Garrick?
No.
Damar?
Yes.
I love Damar.
Wait, is Damar the drunk?
Yes.
Not Damar then.
Okay, bye. Bye, Andy.
It's someone's father.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But that's like a
But that reminds me
Cardassian.
that we need to talk a little bit more about Gul Dukat because Gul Dukat's also in the running for favorite character for me.
Right.
Marco Limo has played a couple of Star Trek characters. He was in the TNG episodes where Data goes to San Francisco during the Old West.
Right.
More Kanar for Damar.
Didn't he also play a Cardassian back when they wore football helmets?
Right, yeah. In the first episode with Cardassians, he was a Cardassian. He's one of those, he's the actor that is always going to be associated with Cardassians, much like Armin Shiverman is always associated with Ferengi.
Right.
What's up, iDragon? Welcome. Yeah,
Michael Dorn with Klingons.
Yeah, Michael Dorn with Klingons, for sure. Although Martok is my favorite Klingon.
Yeah,
still my
fair.
favorite. The way that Gul Dukat is portrayed is continually walking this knife edge between like utterly despicable and maybe kind of likable.
Right.
Throughout all 7 years, except for the end. I hate what they do with him in the last season. That's the third thing that I hate about Deep Space Nine. There's only 3 things that I think were like big missteps. I'm going to add to that list as we go. But there's 3 that I can remember. No, 4. There's 4. There's 4 things that I hate every time I watch it.
Well,
but that's pretty good for 7 years of TV.
Yeah,
you know?
not bad, yeah.
And I'll just name them right now. I mean, what they do with Kern, I despise.
Yep.
What they do in season 7 with Gul Dukat and involving Kai Wynn, it's just I didn't like all of that. It's ridiculous. Any episode in which we are inside Dr. Bashir's mind, throw it away.
Who would want to do that?
And then there was 4, right? What was the other?
Stay tuned to find out.
Oh, the thing with Sisko in the beginning of season 7.
We found out
with
that quick.
Yeah, there it is. What's up, Lucky? Welcome. Yeah. So those are the 4 I'm sticking to as of right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I love Gul Dukat. I think that his relationship with Sisko is fantastic. Like he's like last week that was my chair.
Yes.
You know?
And so this is something that other Star Treks hadn't done. None of the other 90s Treks did. None of the Star Treks did, which is an ongoing villain.
Right.
Where
A big bad for the entire series.
For the entire series, yeah.
Yeah,
And not even
yeah.
like a big bad to defeat, but just like an antagonist who isn't just like, see you later.
Yeah.
He's
they
just
kind
there.
of did that with Q, but Gul
But
Dukat has
Q
an
is
impact.
just a foppish space wizard. It's not like an antagonist. It's just Q is like, did you think this was science fiction? Well, fuck all y'all. It's space magic.
Oh,
That's what Q is.
That is the best description of Q that I've ever heard. The foppish space wizard.
Yeah.
What do I think of what they did with Kales's Batleth? It was okay. There's some stuff with Worf that rides the line of upsetting me. But there's a lot about the show that's still bad, but
Yeah.
not upsetting.
I hope that the people that have these questions are at least come back in for the episodes.
Yeah.
Because we will go into it.
We will go into it for sure. Inside the Mind type episodes. Yeah, in this series, they did a terrible job with it.
This, as much as I do like Deep Space Nine, one of its biggest flaws are when they're like, boy, there is not much to do on a space station. What if we could just casually go to a mirror dimension? Okay, let's do that.
Although those episodes are great.
What if we can go into people's minds? They
Yeah.
just have to come up with more reasons to be like, just anything but not in the fucking wall.
Totally. Hey, Marco, what's up? Although I have to amend my statement that's when you go into Dr. Bashir's mind or Dr. Bashir goes into another's
Someone
mind.
else's mind.
That's one category of bad to me. Those are all bad. Yeah, so, yeah, Cisco saves the day. And then the episode, the big kind of wrap-up of the episode is that now we have a portal to the Gamma Quadrant, and
Right.
now, like, this show is going to be about what happens when you have a portal to another quadrant here.
And if you are on your way to the Gamma Quadrant and you want to stop off for some snacks, or maybe some gas, or just to get liquored up, or if you go to the wormhole,
or a
'cause
really
the
good
wormhole is
Hospirat,
scary,
you know?
some good Hospirats.
Yeah, maybe you need your clothes tailored.
Maybe,
your space
yeah.
clothes tailored by a space tailor.
Because you don't want to look like a schlub in the Gamma Quadrant.
Right.
Stop at Deep Space Nine.
Right, stop
Could
at
you
Space Mall.
just warp right in front of the wormhole and then go through without stopping? Absolutely. But
But should you?
No.
Definitely not.
Stop and
because
say hi.
maybe you'll find yourself in a situation where you get to watch one creature run from other creatures who are trying to kill him, or maybe you'll get to see someone discover where his people came from, or, you know, maybe you'll get to, I don't know.
live a story.
Yeah. Maybe Data will be working on Trying to Dream, because there was that crossover episode, and he'll get the help of a friendly backwoods doctor from the outside of space. I don't know. But you should definitely stop through Deep Space Nine, because it's going to be a good time. I love this episode.
Yeah.
I think that, well, let's get into our post game here.
Okay, yeah. We're start to land
so,
the ship.
Yeah, so when we're doing this it's not a podcast, whatever, this show, this live show that we're doing. In every episode, we're going to talk about the episode of Deep Space Nine we're talking about. But when we get to the end of talking about that episode, we're going to rate it, and we're going to talk about our favorite character from the episode and our favorite performance in the episode.
Okay.
And then also open it up to you guys for like Q&A. I mean, I'll talk for as long as people have questions to ask. And if you guys want to talk about like stuff beyond Deep Space Nine, like gaming or Star Trek or sci-fi or whatever, I'm
Mario
totally game
Builder.
for that. Yeah, Mario Maker. Whatever you guys want to do. If you have questions, we'll answer it. But
Let's build a Mario.
But let's. I just spit on you. I'm sorry.
I deserved it.
But let's rate this episode.
Yeah.
And we need a rating system.
Scale of 1 to...
A 1 to 10 Odos or Quarks or
I was
or
joking before.
Wharfs.
The number was a 0. There's 0 Wharfs in this episode.
Well, yes, because he's not in this one. So what should we have our naming system be? Icar Zope. I'm playing Wind Waker, and we had to name the character, and Andy was playing with me, and we named him one letter at a time. We switched off, and we came up with Icar Zope.
That's good.
Warp jumps, bars of latinum,
Yeah, Latinum is good. Is this strips?
strips of gold pressed latinum.
Strips,
That's pretty
bars,
good.
and what's the? I thought there was 3 strips, bars,
I don't know.
ingots.
Yeah, what else is good? What has the best ring to it, do you think, for a 0 to 10 rating scale?
Bars of Latinum.
Bars of latinum?
Yeah, since
Great.
it's not the currency in the thing.
Okay. I think that this episode is amazing. I think that it has a little bit of a logical flaw in the middle, but that's the only thing I can find in this episode to fault it with. I want to give this episode a perfect score because emotionally for me it
Yeah.
has such a great arc, and the instinctual storytelling in the episode is so... Oh, bricks. Slip, Strips, Bars, and Bricks.
Thank you.
Welcome to Slip, Strips, Bars, and Bricks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Justin. That is amazing. As with most of Deep Space Nine, the instinctual feeling of where the show should go is so satisfied. Like, I'm never like, man, I wish they'd done something else, because like, it's just so satisfying. There's a couple of issues later on where there will be a story where it's like, man, that does not feel like that's what I wanted.
Right.
But in this episode, the way that it ends up, and you know, the arc that most of the characters take, and the introduction of all the characters, for me, are all spot on. And I really want to give it a perfect score.
A lot of times you have to tell people don't bother with the pilot, but here, definitely bother with the pilot.
I think that this is by leaps and bounds the absolute best premiere of any Star Trek. For my money.
It's the second best.
I think... fuck you with Discovery. I actually think Discovery, the pilot of Discovery, is the second best pilot of all of Star Trek. I will give you that I think that the pilot of Discovery was fantastic, and I really loved it, and I was super pumped for more Discovery, but I was let down by that. And maybe someday we'll get into that on this show.
Once it has more than 13 episodes to judge.
I mean, maybe... You know, we can talk about that later. But anyway, the only thing stopping me from giving it a perfect score is the logic flaws of like, how have they not discovered the wormhole, and the way that they kind of push Dax and Cisco into going to the wormhole. It almost makes sense, but not quite. So I'm tempted to give it a 9.5 for that. And I'm gonna give it a 9.5. It actually kind of breaks my heart to not give it a 10, because I adore this so much, but I have to be critical, and I think it's going to be more interesting for this show, for Doug Space Nine, if I am as critical as I can possibly be and give this a 9.5, just because my logic was tripped up, and because Miles O'Brien making those comments about Kira, I think, is unfair to her character, and kind of sets her up in a...
It makes Miles kind of gross.
And it's a little obnoxious. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to live in a future where... like that sort of like, do you think, like, don't you know this about our women? Like that type of thing is gone because it's so annoying. But I recognize that is all over Star Trek, and you can't get rid of it. And I think Miles
90s Trek. Yeah,
Miles O'Brien, on the scale of like being a disgusting version of that, is on the low end of that. I think he's like more on the harmless end of that. Scarlett says, the way you're talking, I think I'll give it a 10.
Ooh.
Oh, we should do a poll in chat also.
Oh, yeah, chat poll.
We're gonna do a chat poll also. So for me, I'm gonna give it a 9.5.
Okay, so eight bars, 5 strips. No, nine.
Oh yeah,
9 bars, 5 strips.
9 bars, 5 strips. Is strips, dips, larps, and blarps? What was it?
Slips is the lowest. There, slips, strips, bars, bricks.
Everything I said is real. LARPing is real, but then Blarp is the name of the little alien from Lost in Space, the movie. Remember Blarp?
No.
So Slip, strips, bars, and bricks.
Right. So I just arbitrarily said it's for 9.5 is 9 bars, 5 strips.
Okay. So every strip is half a bar? Or is every bar half a brick?
You're overthinking it. I mean, there's probably...
I think I'm not thinking it enough.
I just made it up. We could look online to see. Yeah. It's probably decimal. It's probably
I'm going to give it 9.5, and I'm going to try to translate that into Latinum later.
Okay.
Because I like that a lot.
And I'm going to go with 8 bars, 5 strips myself. 8.5.
Okay.
And I am going to give it also... I thought of another rating. I'm going to give it 7 space mushrooms. On how fucking weird space magic mycelial network nonsense this is. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we make a poll? Because I can only make options. Let's give it perfect 10. 9.5. Well, you did 8.
8.5. I did 8.5.
8.5, sorry.
You don't have to give every... You can give every ranking.
I'm not going to give every... I'm going to go down to what you did.
Oh, yeah.
So, anywhere between what you did, and then I'm just going to say lower.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
So...
If you're lower than me, we don't really care.
Yeah, we don't care.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so let's run this we're going to run this poll right now. There's the link in the chat. So, if you want to rate this episode with us, we're going to get a chat rating also. And I'm going to build a spreadsheet to put this all together. Hashtag weird space mushrooms.
Space mushrooms. Did Justin give it 4 mushrooms, or he's just mentioning mushrooms? I've never played a Mario Party game, Fluttershy.
I have played Mario Party on GameCube.
Wait, unless there was one for
Yeah.
the Wii. For the Wii,
There was one on the Wii.
Oh, and is it like you're like on this like
On a- yeah, on
game
a
board?
board. Yep,
and
yep,
you're-
yep.
Yeah, I did play
That's
one
it.
of those.
That's
Boy,
it.
I was fucking drunk. Don't remember what was going on. It was chaotic.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out like this week.
Oh, cool.
Someone just spent $7,000 to buy a version that someone found on the ground and put up on eBay.
Wow.
What probably happened is that someone stole it from Nintendo, and then Nintendo paid $7,000 to buy it back.
Right,
That's my
right,
theory.
right.
It was found in Seattle, which is interesting because Nintendo of America is in Seattle.
Yeah, could.
It's all very interesting.
All works out.
Okay, so while that poll is running, we got to talk about favorite character.
Oh, yeah,
Because
sure.
For me, the favorite character changes
I jumped right ahead to
in
answering questions.
every episode. No, that's great. I love it. Man, this is... I want to keep it loosey-goosey.
Lucy, well,
you
that's
know?
what you get with me, baby.
I like it. For me, my favorite character in this episode, this is going to be weird, but it's actually Jadzia Dax.
Oh,
because
yeah, okay.
I think that in the first episode, as you are introducing all of the characters, the one that appeals to me the most, that I want to learn the most about, is Dax.
Is that because you have an unnatural attraction to kangaroo people? That have just
Maybe.
like a weird skin pouch? Do you notice that pouch is not like closed? When I watched this, I was like, oh, they don't just like unzip her and stick the monster in her.
Right.
It's just like they
like,
just have a pouch that slides.
Yeah, she has a pouch like a kangaroo.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's awesome. It's super cool, and that works because she's an alien.
Yeah.
There's something about her that is just so appealing. Compelling. She's so poised. She's so intelligent. She's so, like... She smiles a lot. She's, like, very witty. She likes to have a good time. She's lived a long time and knows how to live well because of that, and is, like, a very centered person. But then has, like, this well of memories. And I love that she, like, Cisco and she talk about how Bashir is going to go out on a date with her, but like, does he know about like that you were an old man a couple months ago or however long it's been? Like, does he care about that? And I think that's an interesting can of worms to open up. Can of wormholes to open up. Like, is it harder for Trills to date non-Trills who can't understand?
I hope I remember can of wormholes.
Oh, well, I will make you remember can of wormholes.
You start writing down their lingo.
Yeah, because there's an episode. The first episode with the Trill is in the Next Generation, and Dr. Crusher falls in love with the Trill, who is then transferred into Riker's body, and she continues the affair. But then when the Trill is transferred to a woman's body, she ends it, and that always really bothered me. It's like, how can you see this person that you love in someone that you have a relationship with? Because that's kind of strange, and you're kind of using his body, and that's kind of strange.
Well, and they don't.
But then you have no interest in a woman just because it's a woman. Like, she didn't even give it a chance. For me, I just felt like
they just rebooted the Trills for here the way that Discovery did for Klingons. So it's better with the reboot because you smooth out some nonsense.
With the Trills. I mean, the Klingons. I do not think the reboot was better in Discovery.
Absolutely
but I think
necessary.
And only necessary to hide an actor in a mask. It's bullshit. But in this case, I think what they did with the Trill like really works, and I don't mind the redesign. I love the spots, and I had a friend in college, Robin, who I think like did the spots for Halloween one year, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. Yeah. I think that Jadzia Dax is just a fantastic role model as a character, and just such a strong character, all in all, that when you meet her, I just want to be her best friend. And because of that, she's my favorite character in this episode.
Okay, and then who's your favorite actor?
Well, you go, favorite character.
Oh,
I want to be loosey-goosey.
Cisco.
But not that way. Are you kidding me?
Cisco. And it's more an artifact of the amount of screen time that he gets. Is that his character, of course, because he's the commander of the new Space Mall, so he gets to do a lot more negotiating with the local shopkeeps and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he has the emotional arc. So as a narrative thing, he actually has a thing come to a conclusion, you know?
Yeah.
And through the nature of the time ghosts in the wormhole, they get to kind of cheat and show the beginning, middle, and ending of his relationship with Jennifer, where it would normally not be possible to tell that in the story without it basically being the life of Cisco up until now. So they get to chop that up, salad it around, but you still get to see the arc in a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah.
So just as a character, I like that.
Cisco is my second choice, and I think in this episode I like his character arc better, but I'm still more drawn to Jadzia as a character.
Sure.
Like, if the way I'm gonna answer this question every time, like who did I most want to be friends with in that episode? And or who did I most want to like be around, I guess, is
Oh, yeah,
how
yeah.
I think of favorite characters. Like in Star Wars, you want to hang out
who
with
would you
Han
wanna
Solo,
hang out
you know?
with?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I
kind of
see.
how I'm thinking about it. But it can be whatever it wants, whatever you
Who would I
want it to
want to
be.
hang out with? I mean, if it was me, I would just be down at Quark's all the time, losing and stealing Latinum, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's me for real, who would I want to hang out the most with? Would just not be Quark, but that's who it would wind up being. Is
It would
like,
be
well,
Morn.
Morn, yeah, because these are the people that have got the booze.
But I loved your answer for favorite character for this episode.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
great.
as a satisfying.
For my spreadsheet.
creative part. For my spreadsheet, I'm still going with Cisco.
What about you guys? Who does anyone have anyone different that they think are their favorite character? Because we can vote on that too. All right, let's look at the results for rating. All right, so the winner is 9.5. We have a 10 and a 9 in there also.
Yep. Sorry,
But high scores for the first.
No one went
episode.
lower than me.
Yeah.
No one also agreed with me, but that's fine.
But that's okay.
That's fine. I like Discovery. What
You're
you do?
wrong about a lot of things, and that's so am I. That's
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, it's
There's also no. I mean, there's never going to be a right or wrong in this scenario.
right, but it is
unless
just
we're talking
the
about
best
your
Star
opinions
Trek
about
series so
Discovery.
far. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna make a new poll so we can vote on favorite character.
Cool.
Yeah, straw polls are great.
Yeah.
Favorite character. So we got a Cisco.
Cisco.
And we've got a Dax.
Belly Monster.
Belly Monster. Dax Jadzia is the name of my Stardew Valley character, and all of my animals are named after Deep Space Nine characters.
Nice. Are you putting other people in the poll or just the two?
I'm gonna put other. If anyone has other people they want in the poll, let me know. All right, Kira, we're putting Kira in the poll.
Yeah.
If you want to vote for someone,
We just do it real quick. Kira, Miles.
yeah, okay, let's do it.
Kira,
Miles,
Odo, Quark,
Ducat.
That's it. Now, if someone wants someone else out of that, like,
Yeah.
we voting for Kai.
Kai Wynn.
One of yous.
I feel like there was Bashir. Yeah.
Don't vote for Bashir. I'll ban you from the channel. New rule. I take all your Latinum, ban you from the channel for life.
Okay, so there's the next poll for you guys. Okay, so then let's talk about best performance. Because for me, there's one performance in this episode that really goes above and beyond all the others. Avery Brooks, absolutely. His eye acting
is amazing.
And even though I came away from this like him not being he's like my second favorite character so far. Just for this episode, yeah, we're just talking about this episode because it's going to change week to week, and my curiosity is like, who is my favorite character
overall
in Deep Space Nine? Because I don't know that answer.
But if you ask yourself at each episode,
Nee, what's up? Welcome.
You can find a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
map it all out, and you'll
Yeah.
see like, oh, here it is.
Yeah, we could see who is my actual favorite character and who's Doug's, and then like who does chat vote for. So I want to map that just because I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Avery Brooks' performance. I think that it is on the line of being. I could see how it would be too much for people. Yeah, Die Hard, this is just the first episode of Deep Space Nine. Yeah.
Yes, we talked about the first episode for twice the length of the episode itself.
Yes, exactly. We've literally gone an hour over how long the episode is so far, and we're not done. Yeah, so for me, like all of the weird choices that he makes and the way that he like uses his body in strange ways, and
it feels like alive. It's a very vital performance.
yes,
It's
that's
really,
such a good way of putting it.
He's so compelling.
And he looks like a man who has mannerisms.
Yeah.
And I don't think that most actors go that far
Yep.
to make mannerisms. And if you look at him in interviews outside of the show, he's completely dissimilar from Benjamin Sisko.
Yeah.
He created a man who has mannerisms and quirks and swagger, and it's just like a brilliant performance. And
It's really
I
good.
am obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I kept turning to Andy and being like, did you see what he did with his eyes? Like, did you see what he did with his hands? And that noise that he made was so cool. And the way that he like touches Jake's face is so amazing.
And I do think on the surface, though, it's easy for people to look at that and be like, that's weird, or write it off, or think that it's...
Or think that it's too much, or like too... like Shakespearean or too theatery or something.
But that's what's... I mean, if you cannot sit here and say that you do not like Avery Brooks acting because it's too Shakespearean, and then also acknowledge that TNG is the second best Star Trek, because that is 100% what they were doing there.
Yeah. So I think we're both in agreement?
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have anyone else to nominate for best performance? And then let's look at favorite character here. Oh shit, we have a tie for favorite character.
Cisco. Oh, someone.
Cisco, Kira, and Bashir.
Well, that tie will get broken once we ban whoever.
No, I love Bashir. Okay, we need a tiebreaker. Someone else has to vote in the straw poll, or we can't move on. We are fucking stuck here for the rest of time because I can't make a spreadsheet with a fucking tie. So if you guys don't vote, we're gonna have a tiebreaker.
You're gonna have to keep refreshing the
refresh results. Yay! It's Dr. Bashir.
Two you assholes are banned.
All right, I love it. Dr. Bashir is the favorite character of the chat.
My turn to
in episode 1.
Destroy space.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Ugh, that's worse than thinking Discovery is the best show.
But the thing is that like I think that the chat vote is not going to be something that we should take seriously. Okay, best performance. Does anyone have anyone else to nominate? Because we'll just call it Cisco by default, unless we have another nomination. Okay, Bashir is nominated for
I broke the tie.
best performance. Your Andy called. Everyone's got an Andy. It's great.
I want an Andy.
Who else do we think stands out for best performance?
I did think that Kira Nana
Kira
Visitor, yeah, I thought that was a well done. It'll start to come up more over the length of the show, but I do think the female characters are kind of not given the best material to work with. Some aggressively so, but I do think that Nana Visitor was able to overcome what I thought are some shortcomings of the way Kira is presented. In that whole thing of, like, let's make her this, like, you know, be careful of Bajoran women. She's kind of a hard ass, like they all are. But I think she adds a humanity to it that is worth acting. And honestly, like, as much as I do like Jedzia and I do like the actor, I don't think in this episode anything is nothing stands out. It's just like, okay, you did your job. You know, you did your thing.
Agree.
You're there, and you're a cute young person who's also like an old soul. Like,
but that to me is
you
enough.
Didn't fuck
you know?
it up.
Yeah,
you know?
That to me is enough because it's so tantalizing to get to learn more about that character.
Quark, that would be
Quark.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. He's actually
Quark
really good in this.
Consistently, Armin
Shimmerman.
Yeah, he consistently plays Quark. It's bouncing on that edge of hammy overacting, but still having it be like a person, a real character, a character that is fleshed out in your mind. Yeah. Where the dude that plays Dukat, you see that more over time because he definitely rides that line too. And then like the other Cardassian people, it's like, you just ham it up. Like the Cardassians are written as hammy characters. You have to play them over the top. I mean, they're like Klingons who are just more subtle about being dickheads, you know?
You have
to play them that way.
The Klingon guest star in this episode for me was almost too over the top. Like, I love Dukat. I think he's like the perfect one, but then the commander of that other ship that was negotiating with Kira, I thought was almost too much.
Oh, Cardassian. I thought you... Yeah.
Did I say Klingon?
You said Klingon. I was like...
Oh, I meant Cardassian. Sorry. Yeah.
No, we were cool.
Okay,
I missed a thing.
The poll is running. I actually put Picard in there because I think Picard's performance... Patrick Stewart's performance.
I mean, it's just
really good in this episode.
By this point in time, if he can't at least phone it in at that level, you know, what are you doing?
I'm sorry, the new link doesn't work. I didn't put create poll. Sorry. Oh. Okay, so here's the new poll for best performance. So far, we're unanimous on Cisco, but let's see what you guys think.
Yeah, and I get there's a difference between the performance and the writing of it, too. And sometimes you are dealt a bad hand in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, there is a real separation in there. And if we were going to look at, like, best written character in this episode, it would be something different. But that's too many polls. Yeah. I think three is great.
That's reasonable, yeah.
Yeah, but then at the end of Season 1, I think we should maybe do an episode where we talk about Season 1 of Babylon 5 and whether or not this was better or worse.
It's got to be the held up to it.
Hi, what you doing?
Hi, I'm going to sit in the hammock and read.
Oh, fun.
Andy Hammock.
That sounds great.
In the Andy Hammock. But you can't do it without a giant pillow and a blanket.
It wouldn't be a hammock without a giant pillow and a blanket.
Hi.
Oh, man. Andy, do you mind shutting the door? I'm coming back. Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah, adding Riker to Enterprise is maybe the worst. Hey, Jason. No, you're here, man. You made it. We're at the end of the episode, but we're definitely going to chat for a bit more.
Yeah,
well, as long as people have questions to ask us. Yeah.
And you might put up the version of it somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna leave this up for people to check out, and I'm recording it also.
Did we start recording after the break?
No, we didn't. Yes, we did. Hooray!
Hey!
I was worried. Yeah, I'm recording this also, so we've talked about the potential of releasing this as a podcast. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not.
Maybe a Patreon bonus.
Maybe a Patreon bonus or something like that. I don't know if people want to have this where they can listen to it without having to be on YouTube, because like YouTube makes you keep it open unless you have YouTube Red.
Right.
Oh, look at that.
Maybe just hit me up on the down low and I'll slide you a copy.
Yeah, totally.
Tell this guy
Yeah, but if that's something people want, we might consider releasing it as a podcast. Yeah. Well, I think we did it. I think we did the episode.
I think so.
Is there anything else about this episode we want to talk about? Or do people have any questions about this episode?
Oh, yeah.
Or really just at this point, any questions you want to ask.
Especially about Mario Maker.
We're open to, if you guys just want to chat, we're here.
Somebody had a lot of Mario questions.
Oh, we have a tie between Cisco and Kira for best performance. We need another... What about Smash Ultimate? Yeah, I've never played a Smash game. I'm not really interested in fighting games, to be honest. It's just, I don't know. Have you ever played like Mortal Kombat or anything?
Yeah.
When I played Mortal Kombat with a friend years ago, I was like losing to her, but I really felt like I was just button mashing.
Yeah, that's all I ever do with those games.
Literally closed my eyes and button mashed and won.
Yeah.
I didn't tell her I was doing it, but I literally won. I think like twice. And at that point, I thought to myself, you know what? I don't want to play these. Like this, I'm not drawn to this naturally, and I'm not like necessarily interested in fighting games. Just the mechanics of it is not necessarily what I enjoy doing. And then because of that on top of it, it kind of just drove me away from fighting games in general. So I really don't play them at all. I had
a special place for Mortal Kombat, I think. No, Street Fighter in my heart, because I was playing that when it came out in the arcades, and there wasn't like a, you know, easily accessible information network where you could go up and get all the moves. It was a thing that was passed around between like watching people play or talking to people like, oh, here's the thing you do to make the fireball. And you would watch people play Street Fighter and be like, holy fuck, that guy's making the thing do the thing, you know? So it was a bit more mystery and excitement to it, and the button mashing could land you into these like, oh, look, I discovered a thing. Where now I feel like that's not quite there. It's just like, oh, you go online and you list all the special moves. And
another friend of mine, like a year ago, brought over his PS4, and Andy and I played some Mortal Kombat with him, and he like went into the menus. Hey Chris, what's up, man? He went into the menus and like showed us some of the moves, and there's like so like up, down, left, right, X, B, and or something. It's so much to memorize, and I know that I could probably get it over time, but it's not, because I don't have a natural predilection to want to do that. It just seems like too much work.
Right.
Did you watch DS? Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say. So they're Smash Brothers.
There you go. Did you watch DS9 when it first premiered, and what were your expectations compared to TNG or TOS before it?
I 100% watched it when it first came out, and I was bored stupid. I watched it, and I was like, oh my god! I distinctly remember every time he was in the wormhole, I was like, what the fuck are they doing?
Wow.
Because it was just like, there's nothing happening. They're not in space shooting stuff. And I did keep watching it though, because you know it's still Star Trek, and you got to give Star Trek a chance. And I did like it better, and I think I kept watching it until maybe season 5 or 6, and then the war stuff. I was like, ugh, all right, I'm kind of done with this. So I never finished it the first airing, and then I went back recently, like last year, and rewatched it. And I was like, oh, this is a lot better than I thought.
Wow. Yeah, when I tried it,
second best.
I tried it when it first came out, and I was a like diehard TNG nerd already, and I was really turned off by the fact that Picard was kind of a bad guy, and that you never had a moment where Cisco says, "I forgive you," you know, and I kind of wanted that. And now as an adult, I love that you don't have that.
Yeah.
The handshake is forgiveness enough at the end.
I took it almost as Picard is like, get over yourself. I mean, like,
right. I think Picard is relieved enough that this guy is willing to forgive him enough to like be civil to him.
Yeah.
That he recognizes that Cisco is mature enough to do this job, because there's a moment where you're almost worried that Picard is going to report that, you know, Cisco wanted to be reassigned and now doesn't want to be reassigned.
Well, we didn't talk about that earlier when we were talking about the episode, but that is interesting because the dynamic there, I took it to be Cisco is like, I don't want this job. And that's when Picard is like, who the fuck are you? Like, you don't get to decide jobs.
Right.
And then Cisco's like, well, maybe I just quit this stupid space military.
Right.
And that creates a weird tension.
Right.
But then, yeah, Picard comes around later on when Cisco's like, I think I want to stay. Picard isn't like, well, you just said you didn't want to be here. So.
Yeah, Cisco asked Picard not to submit that report, and Picard says, I'm not sure I can do that because, like, I now question your ability to do this job.
Right.
But, yeah, there's a lot of... I mean, that's those scenes, and then the scene with Picard and Miles O'Brien. There's a lot that goes unsaid in both of those scenes that you kind of feel through the acting performances, which I think is actually really great and I really like. But anyway, the first time I saw it, I didn't get a lot of that. I was very young. I mean, when did this premiere? Let's check. 94? This premiered 93, January 3rd, 1993. Yeah. So I would have been 9 years old.
I was 21.
I was like 9. It was over my head.
Right.
And I watched a little bit of the first season as a 9-year-old, and I didn't get it.
You were too young to be bored.
I was just confused, and I actually just. Oh, nice! You're 9 as well. I actually quit watching it as a 9-year-old because it didn't make sense to me. Yeah. And then in my teens,
you probably didn't even grasp that much of the TNG. It's just like
I just loved it. Yeah, I just loved it. I adored it. What I got from TNG was like how to relate to other people positively, and as a 9-year-old, that was really good for me. And
for me,
this show was all like complex shades of gray, right? And I didn't understand any of it, and it kind of depressed me.
It's like when golf comes on after you're watching cartoons. Like, oh my god, old people don't need Saturdays; those are for kids.
Yeah, so I came back to it as a teenager because a friend of mine in middle school recommended it to me. And he's like, man, if you like TNG, you should really try Deep Space Nine. So I started watching it and really liked it and watched a little bit with him. And then when I got into college, it was airing on TNT, I think. So I started taping it every day on VHS tapes. And I had a giant box full of Deep Space Nine tapes.
Wow.
And at one point, I went to Europe when I was 19, and it was during the run of Deep Space Nine that I was watching, and the girl I was dating at the time actually took up the mantle of taping Deep Space Nine for me every day so that I could make sure I didn't miss an episode. Wow. And that's the view through where I watched all the way up to the end of the show, except for like three or 6 episodes or something that I didn't watch. Because you know what happened is I missed the taping of the last episode. I didn't have the very last episode, or I missed one that was like 2 episodes prior or something, and it's like so serialized at the end that you can't watch the end of it. That's what happened, is that I didn't want to finish it without watching every single episode, so I actually didn't see the end of the show for years until I was in my I was around 25, I think, and right now I'm 34. 25 or 26, I watched the whole show start to finish. I like downloaded the entire series at that point. You can watch it on Netflix now, but you couldn't then, and I pirated it. I'm not admitting to that.
Well, that's why for me, even that I got through 5 seasons of it, and I'm saying I was probably spotty because it's back in the old days where you had to like be at a certain place at a certain time to watch it. So that's a lot of dedication for Star Trek.
Totally.
I like this one. Jason is easier. I watch it with my dad every week. Was a fond memory of mine watching Star Trek with him. We actually watched Discovery over the summer while I was visiting him.
So what did you think of it?
You both enjoyed Discovery.
I think
as
it is terrible.
Your first or second favorite Star Trek show.
You're
banned from the chat.
I enjoyed Discovery because sometimes watching a trash fire of a show can be fun.
The same way everyone felt about Deep Space Nine when it came out.
Yeah, but Deep Space Nine, like my love of it really evolved over time.
We didn't really talk about is that people hated Deep Space Nine when it came out. Star Trek fans are ridiculous. They hated TNG when it came out. They hated Deep Space Nine. They hated Voyager.
And you know, if
they hate everything,
if Discovery gets better, I will totally love it.
It will get better.
If it gets better, I will be on board.
It's the best Star Trek show. Of course, it's going to get better.
That is,
trust me, I live in non-linear time.
That makes no sense.
I'm already aware.
That's a show where I would want to watch it in real time with you and pick apart everything that's stupid about it.
Yeah, when season 2 starts.
Yeah,
we'll do a side thing.
Maybe that's like the Patreon extra show. or like maybe in like 3 years we do that.
Every episode is a minute long, and it's just you going, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And me going, "Yeah." Da credits.
A trash fire with purple frog Klingons, says John. Justin's waiting for the new Picard series. Oh, yeah, I talked about that in a podcast that's coming out very soon. I can't believe
that's not a joke, because when I first saw it, I was like, that's a funny joke. And it's like, nah, they're doing it.
Yeah, because it's post-Dominion War, I'm excited about it. Because it's like post Deep Space Nine continuity and post Voyager continuity, which nothing else has done. You know, like the furthest into the timeline we've gotten is Star Trek Nemesis.
Nothing outside of like the beta canon.
I think Nemesis happens after the end of Deep Space Nine, if I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and then there's actually official canon continuity with the comic book tie-in for the 2009 reboot of Star Trek that actually ties that movie into the furthest point of the continuity that we've seen, which was really good. It's really good. I really liked it. So I recommend that. They don't hate the Orville. I loved the Orville.
Yeah, I like it. The Orville.
Yeah.
I'm not one of the people who's like the Orville is the real Star Trek. No, it's just a good. It's sorry, I shouldn't say it's a good parody, but it is a solid, even parody of the Star Trek universe. You know.
I think that it is a better Star Trek show than Discovery.
Nah.
I think
it's. I mean, it's a better '90s Star Trek show if you're stuck living in the past.
Which I am, and it is. I think that if you look at like the general episodic nature of Star Trek, as far as, you know, having a moral dilemma that has to be unfolded throughout the course of the series, or an emotional trauma to deal with or something.
Sure.
Like, the Orville is doing that more than...
Okay, if you say that, then to me that's like saying that the, what was it on Black Mirror, the SS something...
I didn't see that, but I know what you're talking about.
Saying that is a better version of the original series. Like, it's fair, but it's also...
Yeah.
They're wildly different things.
Or saying that Galaxy Quest is the second best Star Trek movie.
Right.
Yeah, but also, I mean, the fact that, you know, Brandon Braga is a executive producer and writer on that show, and they have some behind-the-scenes talent that... Like, Brandon Braga was the showrunner for Enterprise, and I think co-showrunner on Voyager, and worked on Next Generation.
And Seth MacFarlane has just had a hard-on to be a starship captain since he was a teenager.
Right.
Have you seen the video? There's like a YouTube video of him.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, making his own thing.
And then he was in Enterprise. He played the cameo as an engineer.
Right. It's like if I was able to make a Star Trek show, I would probably make something pretty close to TNG, which he's done with more dick and fart.
My point about Orville, apart from the level sophistication of the humor, is that I don't think you could do a 90s style Star Trek now without it being an investigation into the tropes through satire, parody, or making it a little more, I don't know, grim. And Discovery is grim, but the aesthetics are different, you know?
Yeah, I think what bothers me about Discovery is that it's the drama is so unnecessarily forced. They just like make everything more extreme than it needs to be for the story, which makes it confusing and also false feeling to me. Yeah. So to me, it felt like I love The 100, you know? The 100 is that way.
Yeah, it's all.
But it's also it's a trashy teen show.
Well, we'll talk as Deep Space Nine devolves into a trashy relationship show.
So I feel like
very soap opera.
Discovery is more like a trashy teen show to me.
Let me look
and I like that sometimes, but for me, I wanted something different.
Looking at the chat for somebody who's agreeing with me.
You got to look hard.
Orville is more Star Trek than Discovery. Wrong.
Excited about Paul Scheer's new Galaxy Quest? What?
Oh, didn't know about that.
What? There's a new Galaxy Quest. Hold on, I'm looking this up.
He's Googling that. Oh, if you do like space show comedy, though, if you can find it, check out Other Space.
Oh, no, this is old news, and this never happened. The Amazon thing. That's 2017. Paul Scheer says his Galaxy Quest TV show will be what The Force Awakens is to Star Wars.
Oh, that's 2018.
All right, this is from AV Club. This was from last month. This is a month-old article.
So that
let's
could be happening.
See.
But check out Other Space. It was like a short-lived Yahoo show.
Oh, it's on hold. Currently on hold after its champion at Paramount TV. President Amy Powell was recently fired. So this might not happen. But Scheer is confident that the show will eventually move forward as part of Amazon's streaming library.
Yeah.
Although he's yet to confirm whether any of the film's original casts would be back for the sequel. He's previously said the series will be a mix of old and new characters with an eye on the cultural resurgence of public geekery in the 19 years since the film came out.
Public geekery.
Public geekery. Yeah, so I don't know. I am very excited about that if it's happening because I fucking love Galaxy Quest. I rewatched that a year ago and it's so held up. It's so good.
And if you like sci-fi parody, check out the first 3 episodes of the podcast Radio LARP.
Oh yeah, Doug has a sci-fi comedy podcast. RadioLARP.com?
Yeah. We haven't put out episodes in like 2 years, but we did like three or four episodes of a scripted sci-fi comedy radio play.
LARP, right?
radiolarp.com. Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna add a command for that.
Ooh. Command! Is this where we make people go listen to my...
Doug's sci-fi... What do you call it? Sci-fi fiction podcast? Or
genre fiction radio play podcast. Me and Ryan Casey.
Oh shit, Amanda just donated $1.
Boom!
Thank you so much. Look, Star Trek and Star Wars existing together.
Nice. I almost wore my Darth Vader t-shirt.
Did you see this giant Darth Vader back here?
No. What is this?
That was
Oh, Jesus,
given
yeah.
to me last night for my birthday.
It's like
Isn't that
creeping
awesome?
behind the speakers.
Sci-fi radio play podcast.
Yes.
Let's see. HTTP backslash.
No, no W's.
Oh, no W's.
Those are gauche.
All right. RadioLARP.com.
Yep. Boom.
So command RadioLARP will bring that up.
Oh, nice. Does that link work?
Let's find out.
Am I paying my bills?
That works.
Yeah,
There's your show.
Yeah.
And yeah, Ryan Casey's. I don't know. Yeah, he's here in the chat right now, and he's on that show. And Ryan has been on.
What did Ryan boo?
Oh, the show maybe not happening.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Ryan's actually been on here before. We did a sci-fi on trial, and he's been on my podcast a ton too. And then he was in every episode of Sci-Fi on Trial.
Nice.
And moved to LA.
Moved to LA.
Pursue
bigger and better things.
Bigger and better things.
Yeah, well, this stream's got 12 people right now, baby.
Yeah, bitch.
Who's famous now?
We'll see if a new Stargate ever materializes either. I have not seen the web series that they put out, Stargate Command, right?
Continuum?
Continuum.
Commandium?
Commandium. Stargate Commandium. I haven't watched that yet, but I really want to see it. There's been talk for years about Roland Emmerich actually continuing his original trilogy ideas for Stargate, which would completely disregard decades of TV storytelling and basically officially say that the Stargate movie universe is a different universe than the TV universe.
Oh, funny.
I've watched every episode of every Stargate show and fucking love it. I think Stargate Universe is incredible. Stargate Atlantis is incredible. SG-1 is a little rocky, but when it gets good, it's like better than all of it combined. And I love the movie, and it would be really interesting to see Roland Emmerich come back to that now and continue that story. Although he did that with Independence Day, and it didn't really go over that well.
Right.
But I loved Independence Day Resurgence. I thought it was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that universe cliffhanger! I know it's painful. It is. It is simultaneously a painful cliffhanger and an appropriate end for the show at the same time, in a weird way, which doesn't make sense. But did we ever? Oh man, we never got our best performance. We still have a tie. We'll have to get Andy to break the tie for best performance.
No, we just yeah.
Or do we just call it for Cisco because we both think it?
We just call it a tie. Let's call it a tie.
Hold on. We're voting on best performance. What's up, Ghost Boo? Voting on best performance still for Emissary for the first episode. We need one more vote to break that tie. Help us out. Hashtag Discovery is a trash fire.
You'll eat your words one day. My friend.
Yeah, Amanda, thanks again for that donation. You're awesome.
I'm telling you, the people that hate on Discovery are going to look as ridiculous as the people that are on the street protesting TNG.
Oh, you broke our tie again. Nice.
Did you do it?
No! He voted for Quark.
Yeah, that breaks the tie.
We got a three-way tie. No. Someone else help. Help, help, help. Oh, man, what else? You guys got more questions for us? Andy. We need to break a tie. Who was the best performer? What was the best performance in the first episode of Deep Space Nine? Cisco, Kira, or Quark? From an acting perspective.
Okay, you're gonna have to remind. Which one's Quark?
Quark is the Ferengi bar keep. The big ears. Oh, we got 2 votes for Kira now.
Puts his hand on Kira's hip.
The tie has been broken.
She threatens to break his hand off.
Oh, well, who broke the tie?
I'm not sure. Kira's in the lead. If you want to vote, click this link and vote in that straw poll.
Ryan's voice voting.
Ryan says Cisco.
I don't. To be honest, to evaluate the acting, I might have to rewatch it when I'm more awake.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair.
Okay,
Is that
she's
okay?
abstaining. That's fair.
When he's on the beach and his feet are hot, it's so realistic. Yeah, totally.
It is a good. I mean, it's like he's switched from lying in the weird white milk to being on the beach, and then. Ow!
Believe it.
Yeah. Ow!
It's great.
Okay, well, Kira wins best performance for the chat vote. We both think it's Cisco, but Kira wins the chat vote.
Well earned.
Well, guys, this was incredible.
This is good.
I really enjoyed this. So here's the question. Do we want to, in the future, talk about one episode at a time or two? Because we talked about two today.
Yeah.
It's a
My vote
two-parter.
is 2, but not that I get input. But that means I get
let's
to
do
watch
2.
more
Yeah,
once.
but then the other question is, I mean, I think we've talked about doing this every other week.
Yeah.
Is that still feeling like the right call to you?
Yeah, we could.
Okay.
And then we could do 2 because it's like we watch 2 one a week.
I think that's great. I think 2 every other week.
Yeah.
So we're gonna watch 2 episodes for next time.
It'll be good because we will get the disjointedness of it.
Yeah. Let's see. We're gonna be watching Past Prologue, which is episode 2, and we'll watch A Man Alone, which is episode 3.
Great.
And then we'll do this in 2 weeks, same time, same place, 2
Yep.
p.m. Friday, right here.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was fantastic. I really, really had a blast.
Thanks for listening to us ramble.
Do you guys want to go on a raid? Let's see if anyone's. I mean, we're not doing a game stream, so it's kind of weird to raid, but it's always nice to.
Is that where we go steal Latinum from other people?
Exactly. It's always nice to raid when we can. Oh, Chadley's live. Let's go raid Chadley. He's playing Hearthstone with his son Rudy. They're a family-friendly channel, so watch it, motherfuckers.
No salty language from you, sea dogs,
Yeah.
space dogs.
All right, there's Chadley. Well, let's see. Let me check his volume there. All right. So here's a link to Chadley. Thank you guys so much. Tomorrow I'll be streaming the Mario Maker Blind Kaizo race, maybe a Super Expert, and then we'll play some Wind Waker. Tomorrow starting between 5 and 6 p.m. I'll see you all there. Hashtag Mercury Raid. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the first ever Doug Space 9. Super fun. And we'll see you next time. Wait for it. Here we go.
Bum, 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 bum.